Oh, ho, 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 oh, 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 oh. Wow, how's life going? Wait, that's not right. You ever just feel like you're waiting for AGI to pop off? Oh, the general intelligence? Wait, why the f is there no monitor over here? Can you tell us how those two are still together? Wait, which two? Oh, okay, whatever. Sounds like you've bass boosted yourself a little. It's just because I boost the overall gain on the mic, but my EQ is flat-ish. This is with no EQ at all. This is with the EQ on, EQ on, EQ on, EQ off, EQ off, EQ on, EQ on, EQ off. It's barely even doing anything. Why does your screen look low resolution? Why are you trolling me? Does it? Are you guys just trolling me today? Is that what we're doing? Is that what we're doing today? Is this better? Not that. This. Thoughts on blue sky? It's blueing. I can't tell if you guys are trolling me or not. I might. Hold on. Hold on. Shut up. Does this look low resolution? Wait, maybe it did before? Wait. Yeah, it's like your screen is 900p or something. When you watch it on full screen, there's a line going from your mic off to the left side of your webcam. I can't tell if I'm I can't tell if I'm oh wait. Left side of Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. In your OBS, I think you have your screen stretched by a few pixels. Well, I haven't changed anything. You're lying to me. Right click. What am I looking for? Transform. Reset. Okay. Settings. General. Oh, okay. It's just this thing. Okay, that's fine. We can fix this. Add video, capture, device. Okay, this is coming in at the wrong resolution. I get it. All right. What kind of keyboard do I use? I don't know, some Logitech keyboard. I stopped caring about keyboards and shit a long time ago. I've evolved beyond the need for... What the fuck was the name of the software for this stupid shit? Camlink Pro. This makes it seem like an installer. It is an installer. Fuck. If I do this, does it... Try that. Okay. Is that fixed? Why the fuck is Jordan Peterson a complete Donald Trump shill now? I thought he was supposed to be the objective, unbiased psycho-philosopher. I don't know, bro. He went full conservative sellout. I mean, he's on the Daily Wire, right? So what do you expect? Like, he kind of has to be.
This new Trump administration.
They're calling it the Avengers.
You're a fool if you're going to predict the outcome of that. He has Musk. He has RFK, Ramaswamy. Yeah. These are formidable people. These aren't people who need the political power. Those are the people you surround yourself with if you're out on a quest. Putin will hold himself in check until Trump takes power, and that the war will come to a rapid end. I'm strapped in for the ride. My father, he died recently. Man with very high standards.
My deepest condolences.
I think I remember mostly reading with you. That was so much fun.
Am I really going to watch an hour of this guy? Ugh.
Thought so.
I can see how moved you are. You say he could be fearsome.
Piers, you always make me cry when you interview me.
Do you believe in God? Do you think there is a heaven?
The problem is there's a whole literature that Richard Dawkins knows nothing about.
Incisive clarity.
Stopping me.
Well, the last time I interviewed the world's most famous psychologist, he unpacked with incisive clarity the reasons why Americans should trust Donald Trump over Kamala Harris. Clearly, America agreed. When it comes to Dr. Jordan Peterson, they often do. His books and tools have had a profound impact on 21st century culture. Now he's back to tackle the biggest subject of all in his new book, We Who Wrestle with God. The best-selling author, psychologist, and co-founder of the Peterson Academy joins me now. Jordan, great to have you back on Uncensored.
Hi, Piers. Nice to see you.
I'm going to get to your book a little later, and it was utterly gripping, fascinating, challenging, all the things I'd expect from you. But before we move on and then come back to it, the reviews have been almost comical. Like, people love you or they hate you so much they want to rip you to pieces. Do you care? Or, because I get the same, we call it Marmite over here, which is a savoury thing you put on toast, which people either love or hate. Do you care, or do you just want people to be reacting?
Marmite is one of those, it's another troll thing, like British accents. They aren't real, but they do it, like, whenever Americans are around, they'll put this shit on, like, they don't even call them crackers. They call them, like, preserves. They just have the weird, or something like that. The weirdest name for everything. I don't think they actually use any of this shit, but they'll do it when Americans are around, like, oh, these are so good. Ugh.
Acting.
Well, look, I mean, if you have any sense and people are paying attention to what you're doing, you're happy.
Oh, digestives. I'm sorry, that's what they call them, not preserves. I call them digestives. Would you like some digestives, mate? Like you're getting a fucking, like you're going to the pharmacy and getting some medication for your irritable bowel syndrome. What the fuck?
About the fact that they're paying attention to what you're doing. And then whether the attention is negative or positive, I suppose that's the next thing up on the agenda. And it's been a pattern through my life that people have that kind of reaction to what I'm doing, you know. And luckily in my actual life, day to day, in the real world, virtually everybody I meet is pleased with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so that's wonderful. The reviews, as you said, have been comical. I was reading the Times review today.
Oh my God.
Like,
he hates
James
you.
Marriott, he just hates me. Oh my God, he just hates me, yeah.
Oh, what really got it, what I loved about that review was he was clearly, it was eating away at him that the last time one of your books came out, he said something positive that you then used in the marketing for the book, which is obviously what we all do as authors. And he was so determined this time you couldn't do that he wanted to address that right off the top. Right off the top.
Yeah, well, I did do it, though. I did do it. I tweeted out something today that I culled from his review to make it look very positive. So I thought that was hilarious. Because it wasn't easy, because there wasn't much in it that was positive, but I thought that would really rub him the wrong way.
Oh, it would enrage him. Well, we'll come back to the book. It's fascinating, the book, and I really want to get into that with you a little later. But I want to talk to you, just first of all, I want to play you a clip. This is from when you and I did an interview just after the start of the Russia invasion of Ukraine. Let's take a look at this.
Do you think he will use a nuclear weapon?
If necessary, he'll use a tactical battlefield weapon.
Even if it starts World War III?
It won't. Probably.
Why? Because we wouldn't respond?
What's in it for us?
If you let him do it.
I don't understand how people can have such a one. No, I do understand. Why do I say that? When I say I don't understand, this is more word games. I don't even mean I don't understand. What I mean is, like, this is such a obviously stupid position. I wish somebody would take like 2 seconds to evaluate it a little bit more. I need to like we need to like just kill my stream in December. I should. And we just read, not even like 2 hours of meme coverage, but we just read 8 hours a day. I feel like if it was the Nazis like taking over Europe, like these people, would they be making all of these arguments? Like, how would these people ever argue against policies of appeasement if we were in World War II times? Like, there's just no way, right? Like, what would they would never be in favor of us going to Europe, ever, right? They would never be in favor of that. I hate that when you click down here now, it automatically moves. I'm just trying to like focus the window without unpausing it. He isn't wrong. Tactical nukes by themselves won't trigger nuclear war, but they, of course, I fully and completely and totally disagree with that. I think that there is a special worldwide feeling about any kind of nuclear weapon, and that as soon as you have used even a smaller nuclear weapon, I think that you've opened up like this pathway to escalation where everything quickly becomes like feasible or possible or imaginable. I think there's a huge stigma around the deployment of any type of nuclear weapon. And if you even use a small one, it's going to change. Like the world will feel very differently about it.
World War III?
It won't. Probably.
Why? Because we wouldn't respond?
What's in it for us?
If you let him do it and get away with it, where does that end? Then you are into a
Well,
analogy.
look, you can get yourself in a situation, no problem, where there's no good outcome.
I mean, here we are, Jordan. You know, we're 2 years later. We're in a stalemate. Putin is still rattling his nuclear weapons as a threatening, back-off, pretty menacing device. He's done that a few times and then not acted on it, but things are clearly very tense there. And there's a change coming in the presidency in America, which could be crucial as well. Where do you think we are with this war? Are we any better off or towards any kind of clarity or ending than we were when you and I spoke back then?
Well, I thought a week ago that the most likely outcome with regard to the outgoing Biden administration is that the military-industrial complex, who has a vested interest in seeing this war prolonged, would do something to provoke Russia into doing something that was unforgivable so that the war would have to continue. And
I'm not fully convinced that's true. I'm curious if we saw like military spending. No, I mean, military spending probably does increase when there's global conflict, but they make so much money otherwise. Like, again, like I point to that F-35 program. It's not like we were preparing for a war. Like, military spending is stuff that we're always doing around the clock, and even doing it as like as a dissuasion for other types of military conflict. I'm just not fully convinced that like the military-industrial complex needs us to be at war in order for them to make money. And they're just, comparatively, they're such small companies compared to the U.S. economy, and then especially compared to the world economy, and they have really bad downstream impacts on our markets. Like, for assets under, no, it would be assets under management. Well, I guess maybe it kind of could be. How much of Lockheed is owned by BlackRock, right? Like, if you were BlackRock and you had a decent share in companies like Lockheed, Boeing, Raytheon, or whatever, you would be using that vote to say no war. Like, you are not going to fuck our portfolios up. You're not going to fuck the rest of our companies up just because you want to make a little bit of money. Like, it just, I really wish, I wish that somebody would like lay out like a clear, concrete pathway. Like, show me how the military-industrial complex makes us go to war. Show us how they like force us into war and how it's good for, I don't know.
And that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's exactly, now I could be wrong, but that seems to me to be exactly what's happened this week. I mean, Biden, in the dying embers of his administration, decided that it was okay for Ukraine to use medium to long-range missiles.
How much is the U.S.'s annual defense spending? Isn't it as big as other small countries' economies? I think it's the lowest it has been for a while in terms of percentage of GDP. You would never compare on an absolute level, right?
Which is a hell of a thing to do as an outgoing president. And now they've also proposed that it will be acceptable for Ukraine to use a certain kind of distributable landmine. And it's like, this is independent of what you think about the war, as far as I'm concerned. It's like, really, is that what you do? That's the steps you take as a dead duck president in the final months of your administration. I think that's a little bit on the provocative side. Now, my sense is that Putin will hold himself in check until Trump takes power, and that the war will come to a relatively rapid end soon thereafter. I don't know. I'm not a foreign policy expert, and the world's a very unpredictable place. But if I had to bet, that's what I would bet on, and I think it's a highly probable outcome. So we'll see. I mean, everything's up in the air, obviously, Piers. This new administration, this new Trump administration, God only knows what is going to happen with Musk involved, and Vivek Ramaswamy, and J.D. Vance, and Mehmet Oz, and RFK. I mean, you're a fool if you're going to predict the outcome of that.
What do you make of it? I mean, they're calling it the Avengers. What do you make of his picks? I mean, most of them are causing surprise. I'm not massively surprised because I think Trump tried the first time to do things in a more conventional way, and he felt that just didn't work for him.
They're calling them the Avengers. Bro, kill me. Speaking of kill me, do you remember that annoying fucking piece of shit that was spamming my chat 50 million fucking times? Yeah, the Intel chipset, the AMS chipset about the SSD enclosures. You remember that fucking guy, Zonda TV or whatever? That guy was, I think that guy was right. I set these up downstairs, and I ordered 3 of them too. I should have just ordered 1 to test. I set this up downstairs. The fan works perfectly. Temps are fine. Recorded for a while. And then I tried to format from the cameras, and it doesn't work. I can't format these from the cameras. I don't, and maybe I guess it's just not using the right. Oh, wait. JHL7440. Oh, wait. Do these use the right one? Oh, no, you need the JHL8440. Why do you need to format from the cameras? It just makes it like, why in the fuck would the USB controller chipset not allow formatting? I don't know why. But if I look at the, please, Blue Sky, you guys have to buy a link shortener. I believe in you guys. These links are atrocious. I've purchased these 2 because they have fans for cooling. The speed is fine. I can plug them into my computer. I can plug them into the cameras. I can format them correctly, but I can't format them from the camera. But I can format this from the camera. So the only thing that's changing is the enclosure. It's got to be like it has to be like a particular controller or something. But it's nice to be able to format things directly from the camera because I know 100% that it'll work, and I like auto names the drives and labels them, and like everything is like. How often do you format these drives? Probably every week and a half. I think because they're 4 terabytes, a show is about a terabyte. Just depends on how much I'm recording. It's fucking annoying.
He's now had 4 years.
You can record direct to the PC. I don't know if you can. I mean, I can control my SDI output, but that only goes up to 4K. It's not recording the 6K from the camera. Why did it change this?
Tried the first time to do things in a more conventional way, and he felt that just didn't work for him. He's now had 4 years out of office to really think about it, and he's come back in and he's just hit the ground with...
Why not just get an ROG enclosure with a fan? Do they make those? Because if they make those, I would just get that. Wait, why do you need to reformat for this? Can't you just delete the files on it? Because usually it doesn't let you just delete the files on the camera. Those cams put out the max res over HDMI. I don't believe they do. I'm pretty sure they only put out 4K. I'm pretty sure. I'm almost positive on SDI. I think they're limited to that. That'd be my first inclination. Yeah, I tried to look for it. It sucks because the drives work perfectly. It's just at about 2 hours, I think they're overheating because it stops writing. And if I touch it, the whole assembly is like ultra fucking hot to the touch. I don't know why I'm looking this up. I've already looked this up. If these SSDs aren't on the approved list, there could be something. Stop, please stop. Don't stop. I don't want any suggestions from anybody that literally just doesn't have firsthand experience. I don't care. I don't care what you have to say. Please stop. Don't link things. I don't care. If you don't have firsthand experience with any of these, there's probably like 3 people in this fucking chat that could even have it. I don't need you guessing random shit, assuming that I haven't tried it before. And the problem solving you're talking about doesn't make sense. If these SSDs aren't on the approved list, there could be something slightly different about how they operate that the camera doesn't like. That doesn't make any sense. Because with these exact same NVMe drives, these 990 Pros, I can do everything I need them to do if I'm using the Asus enclosure. So recommending a totally different drive doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all for that. It does make sense. Why would I be able to do everything I need to do with these drives through one enclosure but not the other?
With people that he thinks are going to be basically very loyal, and then they're going to be quite disruptive in the way they go about their business. Yep. And he thinks that kind of disruptive, blunt instrument is actually exactly what America needs right now.
Well, I think what's happened fundamentally is that these remarkable people that have aggregated themselves around Trump understand very thoroughly that we're in a time of unprecedented rate of change. And I think that's pretty obvious to everyone. And that there are immense opportunities awaiting us and immense perils. And they're sufficiently concerned about the perils and sufficiently compelled by the opportunities to stake themselves politically. And
wow. I was gonna say, why wouldn't you just use an approved drive? Why get some random shit? Because I need something, because my use case is a little bit atypical, I believe, for what I'm doing. I don't know how many people buy these cameras and then record for 3 hours straight with them. So I need a drive that can record a lot of data. And okay, no, it's not. Okay, show me what you link, buddy. All right. Look at these drives here. Support center. How can we help you? Okay, so you linked me the whole last website. What am I looking for here? What would you like me to click? Oh, wait, hold on. What USB-C drive should I use? My Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, 6K, 6K. So I'm not using the Pocket, but that's fine. Okay. The following USB-C drives are recommended for recording. So 512 is too small. 1 terabyte is too small. 2 terabytes, maybe. Okay, well, let's take a look at this drive. This is an internal solid state drive, so I'm guessing the interface is what? SATA? Only SATA cables? So I would literally need an enclosure for this. So, and it doesn't look like it has any active cooling on it. So, are these USB-C drives? Oh, it's not even a USB-C drive. It's a, these ones I've heard recommended quite a bit, but again, I don't believe these have any active cooling on them. You'd like me. Okay, 2 terabytes is decent, but do these have? Are there any active cooling on these? I don't think this will work if they cannot cool themselves. I think I need a fan on these. Yes, yes, I know. This is a really commonly linked one. Yes. No, you don't. You don't need active cooling. Okay, so you're telling me that the other enclosure that I'm using Why do you need active cooling? Because after 2 hours, all of my drives start dropping frames and they stop recording. And when I go over and I touch the enclosure, the entire enclosure is like boiling fucking hot. And it's generating a fuck ton of heat, like writing a terabyte or more of data in a couple hours, and the whole thing is insanely hot. You just need a big heat sink. You wouldn't need a fan. If the whole enclosure is hot, how is it? Perhaps the passive cooling or heatsink is just shit on those drives. If the cooling was shit, then the drive would overheat, but the enclosure would be cool and not super hot. What happens if it gets too hot? I think the drive is throttling itself for what it'll write for speeds, and then I think the drive stops. The drive stops writing, and then my recording either stops or it corrupts or it'll glitch. Well, thankfully, BRAW files don't corrupt; they just stop writing. May I ask what resolution and codec you're writing to? It's 6K using the BRAW format. I think I'm using the Q5, so the lowest quality write. But it's about, I think it's writing at around 800 or 900 megabytes per second. Bytes per second, not bits per second, megabytes per second. For 3 hours would be good. You could record internally with CFast cards. CFast is the cancer of all formats, and I will never use CFast cards again. Fuck that. You've got to buy individual readers for it's a dog shit. I don't even know who made these. They should be embarrassed, okay? Fuck. Okay. I'm good. All right. Never mind. Okay. I don't want to ask you. Okay. Back to this. You know what? I need a coat. Hold on. Let me get my jacket 1 second. You don't have to worry about cables and all that bullshit? No, but now you have to buy individual CFast readers. And guess what? I had CFast cards. Don't run from me, motherfucker. I had CFast cards for my Blackmagic cameras, but for the new cameras, they use CFast Express cards, which means I would have to buy 3 whole new readers. You're rich? Yeah, but it's the principle of it is bothering me. And fuck, I don't want to buy 3 new whole readers that I have to plug in. And I would rather... I don't care. Also, if anybody wants any free solid state drive portable enclosures, let me know, okay? Because I got like 12 $100 ones now that I'm not using for literally fucking anything. Okay, I need to grab my jacket. Hold on. I think it's downstairs though. Give me 1.5 minutes to run down and grab it. Ooh. Wow. I got hammered last night. I cleaned up downstairs. I woke up late today, okay. But that's okay. We're getting work done. We're having so much fun.
And to take the risk of doing so. You know, people like Musk in particular, but Ramaswamy's in the same boat, essentially. These aren't people, and many of the other people around Trump, these aren't people who need the political power. They already have lives. They already have immense influence. I mean,
oh my God, why would you even say this? It's so stupid. You're getting dunked on by Tyler who was not here. Why? I don't even know what his experience is here. One, this is a CFast card, not a CFast Express card, so it won't work with my current cameras, dipshit. Two, it's only 1 terabyte large, so it's not large enough for the files that I'm recording, dipshit. Three, it says right here that the max write speed is only 450 megabytes per second, which is half of what I need, dipshit. So no, stop.
For Musk to involve himself in the Department of Governmental Efficiency is obviously something that's taking him away from many other things that he's highly concerned about, but he obviously believes that the time demands that kind of response. And I think he's right. And, you know, more power to them. I'm strapped in for the ride as far as I'm concerned. I thought that what happened around Trump in the last 2 months of the election was absolutely remarkable, that these people aggregated themselves around him, and we're in for unprecedented times. And like, the Americans are remarkable people, and you're always a fool to bet against them. And I think we have a good chance of seeing a revival of people and aggregated themselves around him, and we're in for unprecedented times. And like, the Americans are remarkable people, and you're always a fool to bet against them. And I think we have a good chance of seeing a revival of the American spirit that is unprecedented in our times.
Yeah, you know, there was a moment yesterday when Trump went down to see the latest SpaceX rocket launch with Musk, and it just made me think, this is great, actually. Whatever you think of the individual policies and everything else, there you've got the richest, most successful guy in the world, who actually is a big thinker, a big dreamer. And we're going to come to one of the themes of your book, which is about adventure, and how the Bible basically tells us to go and be adventurous, albeit with responsibility and everything else. So there's a real sort of theme that I see with this, where, you know, both Trump and Musk are adventurers. And there you had them going down this rocket launch, and it didn't all go exactly how they hoped and everything else. But wow, I love the ambition. I love the fact that Elon Musk is prepared to say, you know, I met him in France earlier this year, and hearing him talk about why we need to colonize.
This is unironically 1984 propaganda. It's just so crazy to me that, like, we literally went from the everyman, we hate billionaires and large corporate people, we're the Republicans, we don't like the establishment, and now it's like the richest man in the world plus Donald Trump, the billionaire, are representatives, and we actually do trust them. It's so funny because, like, a few years ago, 1 year ago, or maybe 2 years ago, you would have heard people on the left argue for, like, technocracies, right? Like, maybe it should just be really smart people in charge of everything. And the right would say, like, well, no, that's not good. What do you mean you can't have a technocracy? That would be elitist, and I don't want San Francisco elites ruling us. But now they're like, actually, I think Elon Musk should control literally every single part of the government. Actually, I do think it's good that these guys, like, it's all just whoever agrees or disagrees with, yeah, I don't know, fuck me. Okay.
Colonize Mars, how we would colonize Mars, how we would get to Mars if we colonize it, was absolutely riveting. And you've got to have an amazing big picture brain. We've got to have an amazing brain, full stop. But you've got to have an amazing big picture brain to think the way that he does. And if he's right next to Trump in this administration, I'm all for it.
That's my situation too. And I feel the same way about RFK. I mean, he's also a preposterous person. You know, he's bigger than life. He's full of remarkable and crazy ideas. And I'm fascinated to see what he might put in place. And I would say the same thing about Ramaswamy. Like, Ramaswamy's establishment of the Strive Fund was brilliant and daring. And we have brilliant and daring people in government. And that doesn't ever happen. And God only knows. I don't even know if it's a good thing under normal circumstances, because I think under normal circumstances, you want competent administrators running your nation. But we're not in normal times. Far from it. And so I'm, like I said, strapped in, waiting, exactly as you pointed out, waiting for the adventure of this administration.
So now we want incompetent people? What? Okay.
Yeah, and everyone's sitting there thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen next?
Yeah, good. We should be thinking that, because we should be thinking out of the box, because conventional thinking hasn't got us very far. You know, I'm always mindful of...
Conventional thinking hasn't gotten us very far, except for being like the leader of the free world for the better part of the last century? What do you mean by that? What? Excuse me? Wait, who?
One of my favourite quotes in sport was Wayne Gretzky, a fellow Canadian, of course, the greatest ice hockey player that's ever lived. And his quote was simple: you'll miss 100% of the shots you never take. Right? I mean, simple as that.
Right.
I mean, that really is, to me, that's the difference in life between a certain type of person and another, is that certain people in life, they just take the shots and they don't mind failure. You know, Elon Musk is going to see all of his rockets plummet into the ocean until he gets it right. But the thrill of the dare, of the adventure, of all of it, you know, again, we'll come to this with your book because it's one of the big themes, but I do think that I feel like it's invigorating right now. It might be slightly...
Like, there's a time and a place for different types of attitudes. There's a time and a place for taking risks, right? Like, there's a time and a place for somebody being in an area in their life where they can do something bold and daring that might, you know, set them back a year or so. But if it works, it's amazing. And then there's a type of person that pushes a massive update into your production environment on a Friday night and destroys your company's stock for a weekend when CrowdStrike fails and like half the companies in the US relying on it have like enterprise level system total absolute collapses. I mean, like, yeah, there's a time and a place for being daring and trying. In some places it's appropriate, in other places it's wildly inappropriate. Like what?
Dangerous, and it might take us off on weird places, and it might not all work. But I do feel the scale of ambition is going to be invigorating.
Yep, amen to that. Definitely, that's exactly how I feel. And I also, you pointed out with regards to this book that one of the definitions of God in the biblical library, in the story of Abraham in particular, is that God is in fact the voice of adventure. I mean, whenever people are discussing religious matters, one of the first questions that arises, obviously, is, well, what exactly is it that you're speaking of? What's your conceptualization of God? What constitutes the divine? And you could say the divine is the pinnacle of ambition or the foundation of reality. Those are both good ways of looking at it. And one of the answers in the biblical text is that God is the call to adventure. And that's definitely the case in the story of Abraham. And the idea there, which is an unbelievably deep idea and also one that works biologically, is that the full expression of the spirit that takes you beyond your zone of comfort and out into the terrible world is the same spirit that makes your life a blessing to you, that makes your name renowned among other people and for good reason, that helps you establish something of lasting value, and that does that in a way that brings benefit to everyone. And that's actually the deal that God offers Abraham in response to his willingness to aid the trajectory of Abraham. And the idea there, which is an unbelievably deep idea and also one that works biologically, is that the full expression of the spirit that takes you beyond your zone of comfort and out into the terrible world is the same spirit that makes your life a blessing to you, that makes your name renowned among other people and for good reason, that helps you establish something of lasting value, and that does that in a way that brings benefit to everyone. And that's actually the deal that God offers Abraham in response to his willingness to...
I wish I could like take people who listen to this and think they have like huge, and like ask them like, what did you extract from this? What is the insight here? Can you tell me? Can you like make this relevant to anything you do in the real world? What's up? What do you want?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Jordan Peterson probably suffers from schizophrenia. He did actually get a schizophrenia diagnosis. He claims it was a misdiagnosis, and he actually had something else from the benzo withdrawal. He does this thing that schizophrenics normally do, where schizophrenics will watch, like, say, a TV show, or listen to music, or they might read a religious text. And they end up thinking they're getting some sort of wisdom, or there's some message being conveyed that nobody else can see, but they're somehow able to interpret.
I understand what you're saying. I don't think the way Peterson talks about this it doesn't sound anything even remotely schizophrenic to me. I don't think so.
Oh, it totally does. Dude, have you heard him talk about how he thinks Cain and Abel is like more brilliant than Shakespeare?
No, but the way that he connects ideas and everything feels a lot more lucid than like the weird random connections that I see how they make them, but they're not like totally rational that schizophrenics will make. I don't think it's the same. But
there is no fucking way. Well, dude, there's no fucking way you could read Cain and Abel and think that is one of the most brilliant works of literature imaginable. It is nonsensical horseshit. And this guy is saying, "Oh, it's so brilliant, and it's only one single paragraph, and it's more brilliant than Shakespeare, and it talks about like the savageness of mankind." Like, no, I think he's fucking schizophrenic. Just because there's like a common narrative between some of the things he talks about in the Bible, like, I don't know, the spirit of adventure, and you have to bear a burden. That doesn't mean he's not schizophrenic. He just has a delusional way of thinking. And again, you'll see this in schizophrenics. And you'll see this sort of pattern of them picking up some sort of interpretation from something they see or hear that has a similar coherent pattern. Like they might think aliens are talking to them, or demons, or something from the spirit realm, or some shit like that. It's very similar to the way, Peterson says, "Oh, this is like some sort of divine thing from God, and it's about how we need to bear some kind of burden of responsibility and crap." He's fucking schizophrenic.
Okay, I'll keep my eyes open on it and see if I agree.
Okay. Well, how's life going for you, dude?
It's been great, you know, just working and working.
Well, that's good. Same here. You working? You working out?
I'm about to. It's on my next
that's
thing
good.
on my agenda, okay?
That's good. If you need any lifting advice, feel free to reach out.
Okay. I love you, buddy.
All right, take care, dude.
Bye.
Embark on a life of adventure. And I think all of that's true. One of the rules I had with this book, Piers, was that I tried not to offer any explanations of the biblical text that weren't also fully justifiable from a scientific perspective.
Can you explain your case against M and A? I don't know what is M and A?
And usually from multiple different orientation places on the scientific side. And so why wouldn't the spirit of adventure take us out into the world in the most glorious
Oh, murders? I just think they're lame. Gotcha. Got him.
possible manner? Like, what the hell else would it possibly be for?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. The other part of this, which is fascinating for me involving you, subliminally, is that you become this kind of heroic figure for millions of young men who felt totally disenfranchised from society. And I remember the first time I interviewed you in my studio, and you got quite emotional talking about them and how you felt responsible to them, how many of them would come up to you, literally in the street come up to you, and tell you how you had sort of saved their lives in many ways. And what we've seen here is, I think, in what they're calling the broligarchy, which I love, which is the bros, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Joe Rogan, RFK, Vivek, they're all bros, and they're the broligarchy. Is that you saw so many young...
Who are these the people in his head? Who's saying these things? I don't believe this. They call them the Avengers. They call them the broligarchy. Who is saying this? I've never heard these before. Who is this?
Men, whether they were white young men, black young men, Latino young men, but millions of them gravitating to vote for Trump because they bought into this general sense that finally there were a group of people here who were going to make you not feel ashamed of being a man, who were going to say that there's something great about being masculine, not something to be, to be shirking away from because apparently it's all toxic. That these are men in the old-fashioned sense. I'm very curious how you feel about that because you've been in such a vanguard of this. How do you feel about the broligarchy and the impact it clearly had? I mean, may well have won Trump the election.
Well, I don't think that the care that I've taken, let's say, with regards to young men, is any different in its essence than the care I take with my son. I like my son. I want the best for him. I think he's great. I encourage him all the time. I like to see him move beyond his zone of comfort out into the world. And then I have all these young men who have been listening to what I've been saying, who are doing the same thing. And it's the best possible thing. I mean, I had a show last night in Westbury, in New York, and afterwards I usually meet somewhere between 60 and 100 people, and many of them are young men, and they come to the show very dressed up. They often buy suits to come to the show, and they're like standing up and their shoulders are back and they're looking distinguished and they've got ambition and they're thrilled to death because they're doing something worthwhile. And they shake my hand and they say, thanks for the help. And
yeah, it's
that's
powerful.
great.
It's powerful.
It's great.
Yeah, and
it's great, man. It's great.
Yes, and I remember the first time I interviewed you, my sons wanted to come and watch that interview. First time. They wanted to be in the room with you because you had that impact on them. And that I found remarkable too, that you have this real visceral impact on young men who've been really in the last 10 years floundering for their identity and what is acceptable and not acceptable and what it means to be a man, what it means to be masculine.
Well, I had a good father, Peterson. My father, he died recently. He died about 3 weeks ago, and he was very tough man, very hunter, a trapper, a deadly shot, and man with very high standards, and very encouraging. He was really good at that, really good with little kids.
All right.
And, it's a privilege to play that role for as many people as possible. There isn't anything better than that. And, I think you're right about the fact that spirit has been kindled around Trump. And what's so cool to see with Trump is that he's accepted that. He's proved himself willing to share the stage with all of these other remarkable people. And even in some ways, I wouldn't say to fade into the background because Trump isn't exactly your fade into the background sort of guy. But, the fact that he's invited so willingly these other participants, all of whom are high status people around him, also, to me, put to rest any concerns I had about any pathological narcissism on his part. I mean, obviously, Trump is a very effective self-promoter, and there's something in that that's a real skill. But by the same token, he has RFK, who's a force in his own right. He has Musk, Ramaswamy, Vance. These are formidable people. Tulsi Gabbard as well. That's not the sort of person you surround yourself with if you're a toxic narcissist. That's someone.
Okay.
Those are the people you surround yourself with if you're out on a quest.
Yeah.
And it's so cool to see this. It's so literary. It's absurd.
Jordan, I was going to come to your dad because one of my producers discovered that your father had died several weeks ago and found an obituary. I don't know whether you wrote this obituary. One of the family did, and it talked about dad. So it's one of the
Yes,
three.
I wrote it.
It was you. I thought it was because I read it and I found it unbelievably moving. I was going to leave it to the end, but since you've mentioned it now, first of all, my deepest condolences on losing a remarkable man. I mean, even if I didn't know the connection, I just read this about somebody, I would think what a remarkable life he had. He had 3 children, 4 grandchildren. He was a great grandfather to 4 more. He grew up in Norway in a log cabin. But then, as you said, he lived outdoors, shooting, hunting, bird watching, trapping, cross-country skiing, canoeing. And he was an enthusiastic collector of single-shot rifles. I love this detail. That he loved their simplicity, their design and craftsmanship. More importantly, he loved the precision of these rifles. And he liked the fact that a single-shot rifle only allowed for 1 bullet as a hunter, dead center. And that epitomized to you the care and attention that he put into his work. And he was a beautiful gunsmith and craftsman, all of these things. And then became a teacher and was quite a tough...
Are there people that go hunting with like AR-15s? That'd be pretty funny, but...
Disciplinarian. You say he could be fearsome. You know, acting up in Waddy's class was not the world's best idea. And as a result, there wasn't much trouble
that
there.
was definitely true.
But he loved kids too, and he was great with them. And as I was reading all this, I was just thinking, wow, okay, I get it now. I get where Jordan has got all this from. There are so many parts of your dad's character in you, clearly. I mean, do you feel that? When you wrote this obituary, did you feel that really quite intensely?
Well, you know, you pointed to that detail with regards to these rifles. Like,
okay, people are saying it's the second most popular rifle to hunt with. God damn.
Father had 300 rifles. This was a real obsession, and he was a very good shot. He was a provincial level shot. And it took me 30 years to figure out why the hell he collected those guns. I don't think he knew. And I told him 5 years ago, I said, Dad, I figured out why you're so obsessed with rifles. I said, it's because you want to hit the target dead center with 1 shot. And that's like, it's a symbolic representation of your aim in life. And he thought about that. And my dad wasn't particularly metaphysically oriented. And that was an explanation he was entirely satisfied with. Right? And you know, the word sin means to miss the mark, right? It means to miss the target. And that's acted out in this, it was acted out in my dad's life in this relationship that he had with guns. And as a hunter, it was the same thing. He hunted with a single shot rifle. You got 1 shot. You got 1 chance to hit the mark. And he was very dedicated towards that kind of precision. That was part of what gave him that rough edge. He had very high standards. He was a very encouraging person. He believed that he imbued me with the belief that I could do anything I set my mind to, but that didn't make him someone who was easy to please. Quite the contrary. It was a very remarkable combination.
Wow.
You said Dad had the force of nature about him. He'll be greatly missed. That force of nature, was it a sense also of that adventure that you talk about so much in the book? Was he an adventurous man?
Well, he was adventurous in his outdoor life, I would say. You know, my father was a tough man, and so he was the fire chief of the local town as well. And the adventure for him was his ability to prevail. You know, and as you pointed out, the log cabin that he grew up in was actually in Saskatchewan. His parents were pioneers, and like the log cabin that he grew up in still stood when I was a kid. We used to go out there. He was quite.
Do either of your parents have a similar personality to you? I feel like my mom might, but it's hard to say because like our applied beliefs are so different. But I don't know.
Sentimentally attached to it, but he was a pioneer type, my father. You know, so. And he was great with little kids, great. And he spent a lot of time with me when I was little, a lot. And it made a huge difference to me.
You know, we found a clip. This is you actually interviewing your father several years ago. Let's take a look at this.
I remember driving home with you to Nacum.
I thought this guy was going to be like debating Jordan. Why are we watching this? This is boring. I'm done. I'm good. Okay, what do we got? What else we opened up here?
Denims talks about you. Dude, I only watch Denim's clips offline. Yeah, with my pants off.
Jesus Christ, not that. What is this? $355,000 likes. So apparently girls don't like it when you use an Android emulator on a date to scam McDonald's out of 30 nuggets. Wait, what's the scam? Oh, valid 1 time a week. Oh, okay. Oh, it's a once a week deal for chicken nuggets. Gotcha. You missed the other pictures, bruh. Hey, Eli, I just want to be up front. I think you're a cool guy, but the thing you did with the 3 McDonald's app was weird and embarrassing. I don't think it's going to work out. Okay. What do you want? What would you like me to say? I think if you have a first date with somebody and you do something where you're like hardcore over the top trying to scam some company, yeah, it's probably going to look bad. It makes you look cheap. It makes you look unethical. That's not surprising at all, right? I feel like it's pretty obvious, but
Obama brought up 3 weeks ago the good people on both sides farce lie. And there was no fact checking. There was no
rebranded that as it's
it's just you not watching the original video.
What?
Dude, he says.
Say that again.
He
Say I
said
didn't watch the original video again.
You clearly didn't, because he says he decries white nationalists and Nazis in that video.
With confidence, but not.
I got so confused for a while because people were saying that like the quote is "good people on both sides" is fake news. But if you like Donald Trump, good people both sides. Like, I think 30 seconds after he's pushed, he does, like, disavow, like, eventually. But, like, he said this. Nothing takes away.
Putting what you're calling the alt-left and white...
Wait. It was during a debate. Or maybe there are other clips people refer to as well. Hold on. Trump, debate, disavow, Charlottesville. What is the original quote? Is it this?
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out.
No, was it this one? Why do I feel like I remember hearing this in a debate.
You're putting what you're calling the alt-left and
maybe it came up in the debate. Okay.
white supremacists on the same moral plane.
I'm not putting anybody on a moral plane. What I'm saying is this. You had a group on one side and you had a group on the other, and they came at each other with clubs, and it was vicious, and it was horrible, and it was a horrible thing to watch. But there is another side. There was a group on this side, you can call them the left, or you've just called them the left, that came violently attacking the other group. So you can say what you want, but that's the way it is.
Like, what do you suppose? Like, why do we? I don't understand why. Like, people think that if you watch this whole thing, it exonerates him or makes him look better because there's like one quote at the end here where it's like, oh yeah, I disavow Nazis or whatever, or at least he said that during the debate. We'll keep watching that.
On both sides, sir. You said there was hatred, there was violence on both sides.
Well, I do think there's blame. Yes, I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. And
like, were there even a ton of Antifa here? I thought it was just like the Tiki Torch people. Like,
and if you reported it accurately, you would say.
Neo-Nazis started this. They showed up in Charlottesville. They showed up in Charlottesville to protest.
Excuse me. They didn't put themselves down as neo, and you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group. Excuse me. I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name.
Robert E. Lee are not the same.
Well, no, George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner?
Why would you?
Will George Washington now lose his status? Are we going to take down? Excuse me. Are we going to take down statues to George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? You like him? Okay, good. Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. Now, we're going to take down his statue. So you know what? It's fine. You're changing history. You're changing culture. And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group.
So here's so 2 minutes we get to that. They should be condemned totally, yeah.
Group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. Now, in the other group also, you had some fine people, but you also had troublemakers, and you see them come with the black outfits, and with the helmets and with the baseball bats. You had a lot of bad people in the other group too.
The press is treated unfairly, sir. I'm sorry, I just didn't understand what you were saying. You were saying the press has treated white nationalists unfairly? I just didn't understand what you were saying.
No. There were people in that.
Why do people put so much stock into the quote when he clarifies later? Because it's very obvious when you listen to him that he will not, he will never wholly condemn something. But this is just ordinary behavior now for Republicans. Republicans will never, ever, ever completely own or condemn something that happens on their side. They will never, ever do it, which is why I don't do it now when I go on Piers. And he asks me, like, oh, do you condemn this? Like, no. Ask them about something. No, they never, ever, ever do it. Conservatives will never do it. The best they will ever do is both sides you. And even in here, he said more about the horrible Antifa people than anything about the actual, like, tiki torch Nazi people that showed up at this rally. Like, they will never, ever hold their side accountable.
Rally, and I looked the night before. If you look, there were people protesting very quietly the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. I'm sure in that group there were some bad ones. The following day it looked like they had some rough, bad people, neo-Nazis, white nationalists, whatever you want to call them. But you had a lot of people in that group that were there to innocently protest and very legally protest because, you know, I don't know if you know, they had a permit. The other group didn't have a permit. So I only tell you this, there are two sides to a story. I thought what took place was a horrible moment for our country, a horrible moment. But there are two sides to the country. Does anybody have a final? Does anybody have? You have an infrastructure.
What makes you think you can get an infrastructure bill? You didn't get health care.
Well, you know, I'll tell you. We came very close with health care. Unfortunately, John McCain decided to vote against it at the last minute. You'll have to ask John McCain why he did that.
Crazy. That's that's like for the pre-existing conditions, the thing that he now wants to keep, by the way.
But we came very close to health care. We will end up getting health care, but we'll get the infrastructure. And actually, infrastructure is something that I think we'll have bipartisan support on.
He didn't get either of those. Biden did, though. Good job.
I actually think Democrats will go along with the infrastructure.
Hey there, thanks for checking out.
Okay. There are other quotes relating to this. The stand back and stand by is another one. Like
you have repeatedly. You've been talking back and forth.
Statement.
I'm asking you.
I would love to end it.
Sir,
I would love to end it.
You know, if you want to switch seats,
we could very quickly.
We could do that. But
sending the National Guard, it would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay.
But they don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm willing
prepared
to
to specifically
do it?
Well,
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from
that's just an insane response. That's just an unhinged and insane response. Like
seen in Portland.
Sure,
are you
I'm willing
prepared
to
to
do
specifically
that,
do it?
Well, I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it. You want to call him? What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
white supremacists
and right
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left. This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
You got it.
Not militia. That's what his FBI director said.
Well, then you know what?
No, we're done, sir. We're moving on to the next.
We're moving on to your administration. That's not an idea.
Everybody in your administration tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no idea.
Antifa is a dangerous
radical. All right, gentlemen, we're now moving on to the Trump and Biden records.
They'll overthrow you.
When a president, I'm going to ask a question.
No one cares, nerd. They're not here to see you.
Facts.
My God, dude. Obama 3 weeks ago, or I'm sorry, a month ago,
Trump was in
brought
the debate
up the.
saying
I'm actually still going right here.
I was still talking.
You've interrupted me 50 times.
10 hours ago.
Call me out for it.
And you continue to talk.
Trump could say ridiculous, insane things, and the media this time was trying to not take the bait by not calling him out on every little thing he said.
True.
You're so disconnected, man.
Imagine what a badass Trump thinks that he himself is. You know what I mean? Because he did do all that stuff. And to us, we're probably, to some people, you're like, yeah, but he like lucked into this and fell into that and backed into that other thing. But to him, he saw the path from the beginning. To him, the fucking ocean's the part before his feet. You know what I mean? Like whatever, the last fucking how long's it been? 12 years, 13 years has just
you
been.
can't deny the resistance that dude's gone against in so many different levels.
That's true. Absolutely. He's taken remedial tests. This like you were like, hey, what's what is the details of Kamala's plan? Has been asked again and again and again. Meanwhile, Trump goes up there and I've got a big, bold, beautiful plan. You're just going to love it. Trust me. I have concepts of a plan. Right? They do not drill. Trump can say any fucking weird shit, and it just gets.
Listen, that's true, and we can find example after example. Fuck, we should just. I listened to this on the plane. What an embarrassing fucking interview. Oh my god.
Thank you, Claire.
What an absolutely embarrassing. We might just listen to this whole thing right now.
Thank you, the Economic Club of Chicago. Thank you, David, particularly. I want to say two things at the beginning. The first is just for the record and for those people watching on television, the Economic Club of Chicago and the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, which is a bipartisan outfit. People, what they're often worried about is the cost. And the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, which is a bipartisan outfit, put out some predictions the other day. If you add up all the promises you've made, and your plans would add $7.5 trillion to the debt. That's more than twice the total for Vice President Harris. You're on course to push up debt up to 150% of GDP. This is a very business-like audience. Yeah. Why should they trust you with that?
Because we're about growth. She's got no growth whatsoever, and we're all about growth. We're going to bring companies back to our country. You look at, even today, as I was driving over, I see these empty, old, beautiful, like steel mills and factories that are empty and falling down. Now, some have been converted to senior citizens' homes, but that's not going to do the trick.
When was this? A month ago. This was supposed to be the one where the media treated him horribly, and he complained about it. But like, the guy is pretty gentle. I mean, he's a little rougher than most, but still, like, Trump doesn't get held accountable for any of his retarded fucking answers.
And factories that are empty and falling down. Now, some have been converted to senior citizens' homes, but that's not going to do the trick. And we're going to bring the companies back. We're going to lower taxes still further for companies that are going to make their product in the USA. We're going to protect those companies with strong tariffs.
Look, like, none of these things are addressing. I don't think he knows what any of these things mean. Why would the debt be lower just because companies are producing things at home? You need to make the connection there. Like lowering taxes, that's going to dramatically increase the debt. Where are your spending cuts? What are they?
A believer in tariffs. I'm not sure that you are. I don't think you are, but I congratulate you on your career. But to me, the most beautiful word in the dictionary is tariff. And it's my favorite word. It needs a public relations firm to help it, but to me, it's the most beautiful word in the dictionary.
You keep focusing on things most people don't really care about. I'm aware of that. I just wish they would admit that, because people will say, oh, I like Trump because of the economy. And no, you don't. You like Trump because he's like a funny dude and he does an okay presentation on stage. That's it. If people just said that, well, okay, whatever. Then at least we can have the conversation there. But when they lie and they say, well, actually, he's good because of all these. No, he's not. He's a fucking retard. Trump is retarded. Like, maybe even clinically retarded. I'm not sure, but...
Tariffs, do you think that will bring in the revenues? To use another bipartisan group, Peterson Institute, they say they only bring in $200 billion. That is that's barely the cost of two of your promises.
Like, why would you even say that? Bring in $200 billion. This guy's talking about a $7 trillion budget shortfall over, I don't know if it's over 10, it's probably over 10 years, maybe. Or maybe it's over a term, I'm not sure, like 4 years, but...
Peterson Institute, they say they only bring in $200 billion. That is that's barely the cost of two of your promises.
Yeah, but that's like, for what company are you talking about, okay? Look, I brought in with tariffs, and I was just getting started. Then COVID came, and we had because I tell you what, I did a very good job in COVID. Nobody knew what the hell it was. I call it the China virus because I like being a little more accurate. But when that came, but we got hundreds of billions of dollars just from China alone, and I hadn't even started yet. But tariffs are two things, if you look at it. Number one is for protection of the companies that we have here and the new companies that will move in, because we're going to have thousands of companies coming into this country. We're going to grow it like it's never grown before. And we're going to protect them when they come in, because we're not going to have somebody undercut them. And I could give you an example of this if you want. Would you like me to? Because it just happened.
Give me a quick example, then I will come back.
I just found out about it. So I've been talking...
I just found out about it.
About for the last year, about Detroit and how horribly it has been. It's just horrible, because we've been talking about Detroit's coming back for 40 years, and it's never come back. And it's very dependent on the car industry. Well, they've lost 60% of the business over a long period of time. And what happened is I found out, a friend of mine builds auto plants. That's all he does. He builds auto plants. That's what he's good at. He doesn't want to build an apartment. All he wants to build is... And he builds the biggest in the world. And for the last year and a half, if anybody's heard me speak, I was talking about Mexico as a tremendous challenge for us right now. Tremendous. China is building massive auto plants in Mexico. And they're going to build them, and they're going to take those cars and sell them into the United States. They're very near the border. And they're going to have all the advantages and none of the disadvantages. And that's going to be the end of Michigan. It's going to be the end of, frankly, South Carolina. Going to be the end of everything. So I've been talking about this. And I said to him about 9 months ago, I said, you know what? I want you to do me a favor, John. His name is John. I don't want to give his last name because he might not like it.
Why not give... So we're just like using an anecdote to prove what we're going to do for U.S. policy for the next 4 years. We're not even going to name the fucking company? Okay, bro.
But I said, I want to see an auto plant. I want to go and see one of these. You press a button and everything works, right? I want to see one of the big ones. He said, all right, good. I said, where do we go? I'd like to go to Michigan. I'd like to go to someplace in the United States. He said, no, we can't do that. Why? We're not building anything big in the United States. That's not why we don't build the big ones here. I said, where are you building the biggest ones? He said, in Mexico. We're building giant plants, the biggest plants anywhere in the world. In Mexico, I said, so you mean they're going to make cars cheaply? They have advantages over labor and other things, and they're going to sell them into the United States, and they're going to put Michigan out of business. Is that what? I don't know anything about that. All I do is build.
By the way, and you'll never hear them. I don't know. We're not watching this. Fuck, this just irritates me. You will never, ever, ever, ever hear this brought up ever. Okay, because conservatives are demons. Okay, but do you know who negotiated the last massive trade deal that we have with Mexico? Does anybody know? Anybody want to take a guess? It was fucking Donald Trump. It's one of the only things that he can take credit for. It was the renegotiating of NAFTA into the U.S., Mexico, Canada Free Trade Agreement. So, like, how can you sit here and talk about how much Mexico is fucking us over on car manufacturing and all these things? Lil bro, like, 4 years ago, you renegotiated all of our trade. Like, could you imagine if Kamala or if Biden or if some Democrat was the one that negotiated this, how much they would bring this plan up over? It was the worst deal, the worst trade deal. It was the worst trade deal we've ever had. It was such a bad trade deal. Look up. This is your trade deal. How did they flip this on you in 4 years? Hello?
The plants. If you want to see a plant, we'll go to Mexico. I'll show you the biggest plant in the world. That was 9 months ago. I saw him, and I talked about it all the time because I think it's a serious threat to our country, because not only autos, but other things. So then I see him 2 days ago. I was talking at another club, very nice club, and like this, except, I don't know, I think you people are probably even wealthier, okay? This was in Detroit, okay, which was appropriate. And I was showing them all sorts of charts about how their car, it's just gone down. It's like terrible. And I saw him, and I said, oh, how are you doing? How have you been? I said, could I ask you, how are those plants that you mentioned, those giant plants that you're building in Mexico, how is that coming along? Have you finished them? No, sir. They abandoned the project when they heard you're running. They abandoned the project when they saw that you were winning and doing well. I said, wow.
Because I told where's the evidence of this? Can you give me, so you're saying that there were massive plants that were being built in Mexico, but the people were so prescient, they knew the future so well that as soon as they saw you doing well in the polls, they pulled out of their tens of millions of dollars investment on these plants. Like, what? Like, this is obviously a fake fucking story. Like, this is just fake. Like, this is so stupid. Like, you're just literally making shit up. It's so crazy to me. And then literally everyone claps. What the fuck?
I told them, and I said it publicly, they're not going to sell one car into the United States. I said, if I run...
So you're going to renege on your trade agreement that you just negotiated with one of our largest trading partners 4 years ago? What?
This country, if I'm going to be president of this country, I'm going to put a 100, 200, 2,000% tariff. They're not going to sell one car into the United States because we're not going to destroy our country. Right? So because I know you're an anti-tariff guy, but I'm the exact opposite. If I had, there was no other way I could have stopped them other than, what am I going to do, negotiate with Mexico, with China? You're not going to get anything from that. I said I'm going to put a 100, 200, or 300. I'm going to put the highest tariff in history, meaning I'm going to stop them from ever selling a car into the United States. So I just see the guy by accident. I see him. He says, sir, they've abandoned it. And by the way, they built foundations. They were really rocking. They were going to do it. They thought that I was going to win, or maybe they're just holding off. I tell you this. If I don't win, those factories are going to wipe out this country. They're the biggest factories ever built for cars. They're going to wipe out our country. If she wins, and she doesn't know what the hell she's doing.
Can you re-explain Roseworth's argument for why tariffs not only increase prices domestically, but increases unemployment as well? Yeah, there's a whole chain for why tariffs are a bad idea. I don't even bother with any of this stupid shit because nobody gives a fuck. But the reality is let's say, for instance, okay, let's say that we can measure stuff. We're going to use a thing called productivity, okay? Productivity is, we're going to say it's like labor times capital equals, that's it. Oh, I don't need another equals, right? So if we're looking at our, so like, just like very, very simple, okay? Also, if you've taken actual econ, there are probably better formulas for this, but I don't know. Okay, so get fucked. All right. So let's say that we go to, the mines. All right. We go to the mines. We see some people. All right. Let's say we give them some pickaxes. All right. That's our capital. And then these guys are laborers. All right. And they go into the mines and they work. This is not very productive work. They're not creating very much value. if you take into account the labor hour plus or times the capital, they're just not producing very much because it's raw resources, raw material extraction. Anybody can do it. It's like the basest, lowest level of stuff. It's not very skilled work. Anybody around the world, if they have access to these resources, like it's just not right. So let's say that you have I'm gonna invent some steps of manufacturing here, but we'll say okay. So let's say that we have this. Okay, let's say we call this mining. All right. Let's say that in order to fill the mines up, let's say that we need 100 workers. All right. Let's say that after you mine something, we smelt things, right? We'll say like smelting or refining. Okay. Actually, we'll just call it refining. Okay. Maybe refining is like a little bit. Refining, nice. Refining is a little bit more efficient. Okay, you have you're adding more value. You've got all these like resources that are being brought in. Your laborers are a little bit more specialized. You can have, like if you have 100 people in a mine, maybe you only need so many people like actually refining the materials. Actually, we won't say 10. We'll say like 20. Okay. But these guys are adding, so the mining people are adding like a little bit of value. They're taking a natural resource. These people are adding more value. They're taking a natural resource and they're making it better. Let's say that from refining, let's say that we do like, we'll call it like basic manufacturing. Okay. They're making widgets. All right. Let's say that this work is even more specialized. Okay. So we're adding quite a bit of value now. We're taking the materials that have been refined. We're putting them in a factory. We're creating widgets, gears, whatever the fuck else or whatever. And then let's say that we have, we'll call this like advanced manufacturing. All right. And this is where we're taking all the gears and we're putting them into cars or computers or whatever else. This is like very, very productive labor. Okay. A few people are creating products of immense goods or values. It's even more specialized. Or it's more capital intensive, meaning it requires more advanced factories and fabricators with more advanced employees. You need a stable country. You need like sometimes capital investment by companies that are willing to stay there. Right. And then I don't know at the very end if we would do we'll just leave it there. We'll say your advanced manufacturing, there's 5, we'll say 5 employees run the advanced manufacturing thing, right? The issue is that like right now in the United States, let's say we have a country, let's say that we have like 35 people, all right? If we have 35 people that can work, well, what do you want them working on, ideally? Well, typically you want your people in the most productive category of labor. You want the people that are for the fewest amount of labor hours producing like the most amount of value, right? Your inputs are some people and the outputs are immensely valuable goods, right? Now, so we have 5 in here, right? So we have 30 left. Okay, well, with 30 left, well, we stick the rest of them here into like some kind of manufacturing. We'll put them down here. So now we have 20 left and then we'll stick the rest into refining, right? So all of our people are working in these jobs, okay? So we're doing advanced manufacturing, basic manufacturing, and refining, okay? Now we have all this here, mining. We need people to mine resources in order to feed our refineries, in order to manufacture small things, in order to manufacture advanced things. Well, if our people are all highly specialized, well, we're gonna have to have somebody do this. Ideally, somebody from another country or whatever else, somebody else with the big labor force whose labor isn't as specialized or educated, they can do this, all right? They do resource extraction, they sell it to us, the country makes money, those people do have jobs, and then we take all that and we come over here, okay? The issue right now is that for some reason, I know why the reason is. It's not for some reason. It's because of naive and stupid ideas of how economies work. The United States thinks, or conservatives think that it's good or noble or better if we're doing all of this work. So what they're saying is we need to bring back all the basic manufacturing to the United States. There are 2 huge problems with this. One is that it's going to be much more expensive because these people are going to be having to get paid more, right? Because if we're moving all of our people from here over to here, they still want to get paid money and our workforce is used to getting paid more money, right? And 2, every single step along the way is going to become more expensive. right? If the people mining the materials are going to charge you twice as much now because they're in a country where they have to get paid twice as much, well, now the people refining the materials are going to charge the people doing the basic manufacturing twice as much, and now the basic manufacturers are going to charge the advanced manufacturers twice as much. So every single person along this supply chain from the very basic level is going to be paying a lot more for the things that they're buying to feed into their supply chain, basically. What this means is that every single person along the way, you're either having to cut jobs or you're having to you're having to probably cut down on how much you're making, because remember, in society, people are going to be buying less of a thing if the price of that thing increases. So let's say our advanced manufacturing down here, let's say that we're making cars. Let's say that we can sell a car for $10,000, okay? Well, the quantity demanded at this price of $10,000, maybe 100 people are willing to buy cars for $10,000. But if that price goes up to $20,000, well, maybe only 50 people want to buy the car. Well, if only 50 people want to buy the car, you're selling less cars now because they're more expensive. So you have to cut down on your advanced manufacturers. You have to cut down on your basic manufacturers. You have to cut down on your refinings because you've got people working on mining. It's all this horrible downstream negative impacts from moving your more productive labor into less productive labor. There's just no reason to do that. No, there are more reasons. There are reasons to do this. It's just that none of them apply to the United States. So one reason why you might want to have more people working in this type of unproductive labor is because maybe you have a really high labor force that's unemployed. We don't right now. Our unemployment is lower than it probably even should be in an ideal world. So we don't have very low unemployment. Another example might be maybe other countries are price gouging you or tariffing you, or something horrible is happening that's disrupting this part of the supply chain that's making it more expensive. In that case, okay, fine, then we'll do it here. That's not happening right now. We have access to very cheap, low-level goods from around the world. So any of the reasons why you might want to in-house, I guess you could say, for our country, or bring this back to the United States, those reasons don't exist. Everything is just going to be negative for us downstream economically. So that's why it would end up hurting the workers and the consumers at every single part of the supply chain and in the actual markets that are buying from this, all for the purposes of recreating these jobs that are less productive and don't need to, we just don't need these jobs anymore. But it's just stupid. But there's nothing even to disagree with here. It's just stupid. Yeah.
If she wins, she's not going to be thinking about, I couldn't, every speech I made having to do with cars, but every speech I made having to do with tariffs, I'd mentioned that our country is being threatened by Mexico. Now, all of those things, beyond even the car companies, all of those things are now dead. They're dead. I asked them, will they start? Probably not. They're dead as a doornail. If she gets in, it'll start up again.
President Trump, I'll let you give your example.
How does the service economy fit into that? Is it even higher? Yeah, service economies are even higher, I think, value add. Because think about your inputs, right? Like you can just literally have a guy, it's not even that capital intensive, and this guy could be generating immense value for the world, for your country, forever. Yeah, service jobs are probably some of the highest level of productivity jobs, right? I think in general, on average.
You talked a lot about tariffs. You look at the American economy, 40 million jobs rely on trade. It accounts for 27% of GDP. Okay. If you cut that off, that's also going to have an effect on many, many business people here. Yeah. Tariffs also have another side. Isn't that something that you have to acknowledge? No. You could be plunging America into the biggest trade war since Smoot-Hawley.
But there are no tariffs.
You're going to stop. There are tariffs already.
No, there are no tariffs. All you have to do is build your plant in the United States, and you don't have any tariffs.
But people, in a lot of places like this, there are a lot of jobs that rely on foreigners coming here. You're going to basically stop trade with China.
Isn't this simplistic overly? I imagine someone working on an oil rig is adding much more value than some basic manufacturing or someone working at McDonald's or tons of other jobs, I would say. It depends on exactly what you're talking about, but it also depends on what you mean when you say working on an oil rig, because some of those jobs are, I believe some of those jobs are highly specialized. It's not like you don't send random people who are like, oh yeah, I flunked college and I can't do any other work. Can I go work on an oil rig? I'm pretty sure the people that go work on those things are usually relatively specialized workers. I believe so. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. It's not just, those aren't just random high school people working. It's not that there's anything wrong with random high school. But also keep in mind, too, that you need a huge capital investment as well for all of that oil rig stuff, too. You have to have advanced manufacturing to even create those things to make the oil rig possible, right?
You're talking about 60% trade on that, 60% tariffs on that. You're talking, as you said, 100, 200% on things you don't really like. You're also talking about 10, 20% tariffs on the rest of the world.
What's the long-term negative effects of trade deficits for an economy? Is it sustainable for the U.S.? I don't know if there is. I don't know if anybody considers there being... I don't know enough macro econ. If down the road there's some negative impact for running trade deficits for long periods of time. There might be, but if there are, I'm not aware of any.
The world, that is going to have a serious effect on the overall economy. And yes, you're going to find some people who will gain from individual tariffs. The overall effect could be massive.
Are trade deficits bad? I've never heard a convincing reason for why a trade deficit is bad, no.
I agree it's going to have a massive effect, positive effect. It's going to be a positive, not a negative.
Well,
let me I know how committed you are to this, and it must be hard for you to spend 25 years talking about tariffs as being negative and then have somebody explain to you that you're totally wrong. It'll have a negative, it will have... I'll go a step further. If you don't do this, this country has no chance.
40 million jobs is a lot of jobs to rely on.
They're all coming back.
Those are 40 million jobs in America that rely on trade.
Are you ready? John Deere, great company. They announced about a year ago they're going to build big plants outside of the United States.
Disadvantages of trade deficits. Trade deficits can create substantial problems in the long run. The worst and most obvious problem is that trade deficits facilitate a sort of economic colonization. If a country continually runs trade deficits, citizens of other countries acquire funds to buy up capital in that nation. I guess that's if you consider this a problem or not. Oh, also keep in mind that everything I say is going to be coming from a United States perspective. So another country running a massive trade deficit over long periods of time, that could be problematic. Meaning that if I run a trade deficit with another country, let's say that I import $100 worth of stuff and I only export $50 worth of stuff to them, well, they're holding on to a bunch of USD. They've got like a ton of dollars and they're like, okay, well, fuck, what do I do with these dollars? I could buy things from the rest of the world. Or, ultimately those dollars are probably going to make their way back to the US economy. I'm going to go back to the US. I'm going to buy things. I'm going to invest in things in the US. So I'm going to buy up capital, buy up land or whatever. In smaller countries, I think that that might be problematic. But I don't know in the United States if this is like an actual concern or not. This can mean making new investments that increase productivity and create jobs. However, it may also involve merely buying up existing businesses, natural resources, and other assets. If this buying continues, foreign investors will eventually own nearly everything in the country. Trade deficits are generally much more dangerous with fixed exchange rates. Under a fixed exchange rate regime, devaluation of the currency is impossible. Trade deficits are more likely to continue and unemployment may increase significantly. So we have a floating exchange rate because there's literally no reason to ever have like a gold standard or autistic shit like this. Right? I believe that the most major industrialized nations have had floating exchange rate systems. Yes, correct. This is one of the reasons, or one of the criticisms, I believe. This is like heavy macro econ theory, so I'm on very shaky ground here. But like one of the problems with joining the Eurozone or joining like having the euro is you lose the ability to control your currency. And if you lose the ability to control your currency, there are times when you actually want to devalue your currency. It's not always good to have a strong currency. Everybody thinks that, USD needs to be strong. It's not always good to have a strong currency. When your currency is very strong, it makes it very easy to import things, but it makes it a lot harder to export things, right? If my dollar is going really far compared to a euro, I can go to a European country and I can buy a whole bunch of shit. It's really good for me. But if my dollar is really strong and people want to import from US markets, well, comparatively, the US prices are going to be a lot higher. So if you're running into an issue where trade deficits, your country's a lot of debt or whatever, or you want to help your export market, devaluing your currency can help a lot to assist your export markets. But if you're part of like a greater union of people who are all controlling the same currency, the needs of your market might be different than the needs of another market. So, yeah. Under a fixed exchange rate regime, devaluation of the currency is impossible. Trade deficits. According to the twin deficit hypothesis, there's also a link between trade deficits and budget deficits. Some economists believe that the European debt crisis was caused in part by some EU members running persistent trade deficits with Germany. Exchange rates can no longer adjust between countries in the Eurozone, making trade deficits a more serious problem. I don't know how trade deficits would be linked to budget deficits. I'm not entirely sure on that one, but okay. Watch a little bit more of this.
States, right? They're going to build them in Mexico.
And you threatened
they're
them with
also going to
tariffs
build.
and they stopped.
That's right. I said, if John Deere builds those plants, they're not selling anything into the United States. They just announced yesterday they're probably not going to build the plants, okay? I kept the jobs here. And I'll keep John Deere will stay here. And I'll tell John Deere, if you do build outside of the United States, you can, if you want. For instance, India is a very tough country. It's not only China. You know, China is the, I would say, probably the toughest. But there are a lot of tough. You know what's very tough? European Union. Our beautiful European countries. Wonderful, wonderful. If you add them up, they're almost the size of us. They treat us so badly. We have a deficit. I said to Angela Merkel when she was there, she's not there anymore, I wonder why. But when she was there, I said, Angela, how many Chevrolets do we have in Berlin? Why, Donald, you have none. He said, that's right. How many Fords do we have in Frankfurt? I don't know. None. I said, that's right. You know how many cars we have? Mercedes-Benz, BMW, all of the different Volkswagen, millions and millions of cars. And then I said, farm products. You know, they don't want our farm. They don't want anything from us. We have deficits that are crazy. And we're not going to have any more. We're going to put tariffs on them, and they're going to do. And you know what they can do? The Mercedes-Benz will start building in the United States, and they have a little bit. But you know what they really are? Assembly, like in South Carolina. But they build everything in Germany, and then they assemble it here. They get away with murder because they say, "Oh yes, we're building cars." They don't build cars. They take them out of a box and they assemble them. We could have
So again, this is like one of your highest value-added manufacturing things. What he's saying here is so unbelievably economically illiterate. It's the equivalent to me saying, I have a guy over here who's literally mining lithium out of the earth. All this guy over here is he takes the computer keyboard and enters a few keystrokes on the microchip that was made from what I took from the earth. Like, what a stupid job. All he's doing is he's a code monkey. He just hammers away at a keyboard while I'm doing all the real work over here. Final stages of assembly can be some of your highest value-added stages of production and are oftentimes some of the most valuable, like value-added stages of production. It's the idea that like this is such a stupid or bad or horrible thing to do. Like, you would rather be further along the line of advanced manufacturing than closer to the beginning of it. That's just such a stupid, foundationally stupid way to look at.
assemble it here. They get away with murder because they say, "Oh yes, we're building cars." They don't build cars. They take them out of a box and they assemble them. We could have our child do it.
Can we come back? Let's come back to the Europeans in a second. What about consumers? People out there.
They're going to be the biggest beneficiaries.
Yeah, critics say your tariffs will end up being like a national sales tax.
Nope.
Because if you have America at the moment has $3 trillion worth of imports, you're going to add tariffs to every single one of them. That is going to push up the cost for all those people who want to buy foreign goods.
No.
That is just simple math.
It has to push the cost up. Like, the only reason they're not manufacturing them domestically is because it would be more expensive to do so. So if you're going to tariff things until domestic manufacturing is competitive, then necessarily cost will increase. It has to. There's no way around that. If you're going to say that cost will remain the same, then that defeats the entire purpose of having a tariff. If they could manufacture things for the same cost here, why wouldn't they already do it? This is just, it's all just illiterate, stupid.
Mathematics, President Trump.
It's not. Yeah, it is, but not the way you figured. I was always very good at mathematics. Yes. Let me tell you, you're saying $3 trillion.
That's $3 trillion worth of imports.
And they don't have to pay. And the higher the tariff, the more likely it is to have them come into the
higher the tariff, the more you're going to put on the value.
Yes, the higher the tariff, the more likely to bring the business back here, because the more expensive you're making the cost of producing the thing, right? Meaning the more expensive it's going to be to the consumer at the end, right?
But those goods, the higher people are going to have to pay in shops.
Ready? The higher the tariff, the more likely it is that the company will come into the United States and build a factory in the United States so it doesn't have to pay the tariff.
That will take that.
Destiny is wrong. The cost wouldn't necessarily be higher. He doesn't understand comparative advantage. Excuse me? What an unbelievably fucking retarded thing to say. First of all, comparative advantage already supports not having tariffs, right? The reason why you're tariffing is because you're saying that the comparative advantage of the other country is higher than the advantage of you producing it locally because they can produce ever cheaper. That's what comparative advantage is. What do you think comparative advantage is, you fucking retard? What are you talking about? The comparative advantages exist on their end, that they're better at producing and manufacturing things that we purchase, and then we make the higher value added cost of, or the higher value added goods, right? That's the comparative advantage. When you tariff things, what you're doing is you're artificially blocking off, or you're artificially destroying their comparative advantage so that you can domestically manufacture. What are you talking about?
That will take many years. That will take many years.
In fact, I'll tell you, there's another theory is that the tariff, you make it so high, so horrible, so obnoxious that they'll come right away. When I do the 10%, 10% is really, first of all, 10% when you collect it is hundreds of billions of dollars. The numbers that you're talking, all reducing our deficit. But really, so there's two ways of looking at a tariff. You can do it as a money-making instrument, or you can do it as something to get the companies. Now, if you want the companies to come in, the tariff has to be a lot higher than 10%, because 10% is not enough. Guys, they're not going to do it for 10. But you make a 50% tariff, they're going to come in. Let me tell you the other thing about tariffs that's great. Our steel companies, as you know, 3-4 years ago, they were all when I was in office, I saw a man from a big steel company, and he was devastated. I knew him for a long time.
Oh, another anecdote from a company that he's not going to name in an area that he's not going to name. Okay, nice, based, okay.
And it's been a tough business. It was a great business many years ago, and I would not let U.S. steel be sold to Japanese. By the way, it's psychologically, I think it would be.
That's the Nippon steel, as you know.
Yeah, I wouldn't let it be sold, but I would stop it if it hasn't been completed by the time I'm president, because I think it sets a horrible tone. But I had a lot to do with steel. We were going to lose all our steel companies because China, as you remember, was dumping steel at levels that nobody's ever seen before, and I put a 50% tax on that. And a tariff on that, all dumped steel. And it was also bad steel. It was what they call dirty steel. It wasn't good steel, which is a bad thing for structural components of building.
Let's say a country starts becoming lax in maintaining its foreign relations with its trade partners, and they start cutting you off from supply. What does it matter if you can program a chip if you don't have access to the chips or the machines that make the chips, or even resources or knowledge to make the machines and develop the process? Then you'd be fucked. I mean, if you want, then you can try to make everything at home. You're just basically, you're making a lower standard of living. If that's what you want to do, then you can do that. If you're like, I don't trust these other people, so we're going to lower our standard of living so it can be more stable, then go for it. But I mean, it's a lower standard of living, right? Like, how are you guaranteed right now that you're going to have food tomorrow if you don't grow your own? Well, if you want, you can go out and grow your own food, do subsistence farming, but you're not going to have as much time in your day to do other things. It's a lower standard of living. The more humans that are working together on projects, the more people that are working towards a common goal, the better the standard of living is for every single person involved. If you want to cut yourself off from huge groups of other humans that can be productive contributors to some giant labor force, then you can do that, but you're necessarily lowering your standard of living to do so. So
buildings and planes and things like that. They were dumping crap into our country. And I put a 50% tariff. I started at 25, I raised it to 50 because the 25 didn't quite do it. I raised it to 50 and that did it. They stopped dumping steel. And I saved our steel mills by having that. We saved it. We saved our steel. Now, what was left because we've lost so much. But there are certain companies you have to have. There are certain things you have to have. Steel, you have to have. If you go to war, you know, there's a possibility you go to war. I kept us out of war. I was the only president in 82 years that kept you out of a war, except I defeated ISIS, but I inherited that war. There's no wars. And by the way.
So you're saying we should import all of our chips and not produce them? I think there are some industries that you can argue for producing locally for security reasons. Like steel might be one, microchips might be one, maybe. But the idea that you should in-house all of it is beyond stupid. And when we in-house those microprocessors and everything else, you have to acknowledge that they probably will cost more because they're making them here now. But that's fine. The trade-off is just the trade-off is for national security reasons. But you're not just doing this for good economics or whatever.
Right. And I think it's very important. You can go, you know, I call it the weave. You can call it, you have the weave as long as you end up in the right location at the end. But while we're talking about it, we have never been so close to World War III as we are right now. With what's going on in Ukraine and Russia and the Middle East.
Well, let's
I had no wars in the whole world. Think of it. And I talked them out of wars. I talked plenty of countries out of wars. I had the whole world, other than ISIS, which I inherited. And I knocked out ISIS in a matter of weeks. It was supposed to take 4 to 5 years. I did it in a matter of weeks. We actually have a great military. We don't know how to use it, but we have a great military.
With great respect, I was asking about tariffs. You've gone off about that. Seeing you brought up tariffs and foreign policy, many people would say the biggest problem with your tariffs is actually geopolitics. You, in your first term, you got some credit for effectively saying there was a Cold War against China. That's what America was in. If you look at the last Cold War against the Soviet Union, America won it in part because it rallied allies to it. You're talking about slamming allies with 30%, 20% tariffs. Isn't this time you're going to end up trying to rally the West and you're dividing it instead? Isn't that the real problem with tariffs, even beyond all the problems due to the economy, where you keep on bringing up these individual examples, but the overall effect is going to be dramatic?
No, the
answer first about foreign policy.
Yeah, I'll do that.
How does it help you take on China, turning all your allies against you?
Tremendously, because China thinks we're a stupid country, a very stupid country. They can't believe that somebody finally got wise to them. Not one president, Bush, Obama, Barack Hussein Obama, have you heard of him? Not one president, think of it, not one president charged China anything. They said, oh, they are a third world nation, they're developing. Well, we're a developing nation too. Take a look at Detroit. Take a look at our cities. We're a developing nation. We have to develop more than they do. We're way behind them. You take a look at what's happened to our cities. So what I'm saying is
my question was about your allies, not about China. You are going to annoy the people you need to rally behind you.
But our allies have taken advantage of us more so than our enemies. Our allies are the European Union. We have a trade deficit of $300 billion with the European Union. Our allies are Japan. You know, Abe was a very good friend of mine. He was a great guy, great. And I said to him in Japan, he was assassinated. And he was a great man. He really was. I didn't see too many like him. And he got very sick and he had to take off. And then he was actually making a comeback. He was going to make a comeback and he would have won easily. But he was a great gentleman, handsome, wonderful man, respected by everybody. And I went to him and I said, Shinzo, we have to talk. What? Trade. And he goes, I'll never forget it. I know. I said, what do you know? I knew you'd come to me.
Oh my God. Look at Ford's website right now. The cars in SUV section. The only car listed is a Mustang. American, no offense, I'm sorry, but like American cars kind of suck for generally like anybody that likes to drive cars or anybody like they're not just because Americans didn't make good cars. There's a reason why in 2007, like what was it, Chrysler, GM like discontinued like 90% of their fucking brands. Okay, there's a reason why it took so long for American manufacturers to even be able to make a decent compact car. Like we like F-150s, we like our Chevy Silverados. I'm pretty sure these are still the 2 most commonly sold vehicles in the United States. If you live in a European country, you don't want to drive these massive gas guzzling piece of shits around your fucking where you live. They're hard to park. They don't fit anywhere. They're huge. They're just like unnecessary. They're unwielding. Like nobody, like other people just don't really like these vehicles that much. It's not that, it's not that hard to figure out. Like, but anyway, this whole interview is like all of this is so stupid. Sorry. Okay.
You really do like this. Hold on.
Really do like I
no. I'm serious. Like 2 weeks ago, you were talking about how you live totally inculcated in a left-wing kind of biosphere media. You said that you thought your media ecosystem was balanced, and it turned out you were woefully misinformed.
Which you have rephrased as you live in a totally inculcated left-wing bubble. That's not what I said.
That's what it ended up being, though, because you were espousing all these things from the mainstream media.
Fox News is a left-wing bubble.
and Reddit, and you were going to these places, and you were so
And
sure
Twitter.
that these things were going to happen, and they didn't. And you said, I want to kind of expand my media horizons, which is true. And that's fair. And I feel the same way in that regard. But this idea that you can look at what Trump's gone through just from a media perspective, and that he hasn't been grilled and had ridiculous things thrown against him all the time by every major network for a decade is insane. That's just looking at reality and denying
Trump brings it on himself when he says these people have bad genes. They are vermin poisoning the blood of our country. And then you're like, can you believe they're giving Trump a hard time?
I mean, there's so many other examples.
So,
oh my God.
Obama 3 weeks ago, or I'm sorry, a month ago,
Trump was in
brought
the
up
debate
the.
saying,
I'm actually
are
still going right
eating
here.
the dogs and cats. They're eating your pets, right? That's what he goes up there and says in the one debate he participated in. And they're like, I can't believe they give Trump a hard time. Yeah, he brings it on himself. If Kamala said that people were eating cats and dogs in the debate, that's all they would talk about.
Kamala said she wanted to give trans surgeries to illegal prisoners, and that
in 2019, she said she wanted to follow the laws. What a stupid fucking example. That's his counterexample, bro.
Wasn't held against her feet, was it?
And the fact that you don't know that is
I do know that.
of the media not really giving her a fair shake, right? That is not her position.
You think
anymore.
the media,
She
dude,
did
the
say it
entire
in
reason that
2019.
Harris went from being the least popular, hidden in a basement vice president of all time to being foisted upon us as though she's brat and a hero with all these ham-handed memes from the media is solely because the media was driving her to popularity. She had no organic popularity. She was a total empty suit that people got to, impose whatever view they wanted on
This
top
is your
of her.
bubble because I saw the organic popularity. I saw the streams with the freaking coconut pilled and how everyone was so.
That's not
excited.
organic. If you fell for that, that's on you.
I think these people were excited.
If you fell for that, meanwhile, he's talking about a 2019 or whatever quote from the trans jail prison, whatever bullshit. Like the popularity was organic, but it was obviously people were excited because there was like a crazy political thing happening. The idea that like you're swapping a candidate with somebody new, like you should be able to admit that, even if you think it was short lived, or even if you think it was because of her, but it was because of just like the scenario around it. Like that was an exciting moment for both sides. It was crazy stuff. The idea that you're pretending like that, all of that was just astroturfed or none of it was real. Like, come on, bro.
Excited about her because she wasn't Trump and not because she was Kamala. I mean, I'll grant you that.
Fair.
But the idea that there's some media ecosystem propping her up is not true. They were so much harder on her than they were
I
on him.
completely disagree.
Dude, they were propping her up. I'm sorry, Richard, go ahead.
Let me just say this. Kamala Harris factually did not do an interview for months after she was given the nod. Every single one of her interviews is heavily fucking scripted, where she gets at least 3 days to prepare. And I know a lot of these things because I was invited on the fireside chat with Joe Biden 12 years ago, and they vetted every single question going into it. And Trump, like, love him or hate him, regardless, the man has done interview after interview after. I personally went to fucking Mar-a-Lago for the Crypto Bro Summit down there, and for 4 hours with people on their phones recording him, what questions you got? I asked him about CBDCs and shit like that. Like there was no screening of questions. The dude was just talking off the cuff. He did podcast after podcast after podcast. He did so many unscripted conversations with people. You couldn't get one sentence in with Kamala Harris without it being heavily scrutinized beforehand. And that's the problem that I had with it.
I think she went 6 weeks before she did her first interview.
6 weeks.
Well, he said it was months. That's a long time.
Almost 2 months.
Her whole campaign was months. And yeah, Trump did take interviews, especially in his first term. I would argue less so in the second one. He did fewer rallies and fewer interviews. And the interviews he did were often super friendly. He didn't go on 60 Minutes like she did, where her feet were held to the fire. He would go on Fox News. He would go on
Can we pause
Hannity's
there
show.
for a second?
He went on CNN and did a town hall, but they mandated that everybody who went to that town hall was a Trump supporter. Those are the kind of stack the deck events that Trump did.
Let's stop it for a second. You just implied that 60 Minutes held Harris's feet to the fire.
Oh shit. Is he going to bring up, what about when they edited in her other answer for that one thing, when they had the Twitter thing to make her look infinitely better? Here we go.
Right?
Okay, yeah, I did.
Okay. Do you know that they selectively edited out questions?
It's every... Bro, just kill me, dude. It's like every stupid fucking conservative conspiracy talking point. And he accused Woody of living in a media bubble. Didn't you hear her answer on Israel?
I've heard that. What did they edit out?
They edited out insane, ridiculous, retarded ramblings from a moron in order to put a different answer from a different question into the edit. Yes.
It wasn't a different answer for a different question. I think sometimes they do multiple takes for answers for questions, and they went with one over another. The people that made the trailer on Twitter it wasn't the same take that made it to the final cut. And also, if you, I didn't even hear about this. What's the claim? The claim is she answered something one way about like Israel-Palestine there was like a Twitter trailer for the interview, and then in the actual video itself, there's a different answer in there. In my opinion, both answers are like pretty retarded. So the idea that one answer sounds way better than the other is just, it's most people don't even know what both answers were. And whoever thinks that like one was a really good answer and the other wasn't just doesn't know anything about the answers. Can we find these? Kamala Harris, different answers, 60 Minutes question. Fuck, we read an article that just has a transcription of both. On October 6th, CBS Sunday morning public affairs program Face the Nation posted a lengthy clip previewing the sit-down with Harris 60 conducted by correspondent Bill Whitaker. So I think this was in relation to the Israel-Palestine thing, and the first answer was, well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region. And then the actual answer that they edited it to was, we're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end. Like, both of these are pretty nothing answers. Like, I don't know if I would look at one and be like, oh, this is so much better than the other. But people were acting like, because this is the one that made the final cut and this is the one in the trailer, that 60 Minutes was like hardcore sweeping for, we're hardcore sweeping for her entire fucking interview or whatever. Just stupid. This is the original article you read. If they were sweeping, why would they show the other answer? Yeah, I know. That's that most obvious thing. It's like, why would they even... Wait, it's the same answer, not a different cut? Oh, wait, is it all part of the exact same... Oh, fuck. Did I even the version that I fell for was fake? Hold on, let me read this. Former President Donald Trump is accusing 60 Minutes of deceitful editing of our October 7th interview. This is false. 60 Minutes gave an excerpt of our interview to Face the Nation that used a longer section of our answer than that on 60 Minutes. Same question, same answer, but a different portion of the response. When we edit any interview, whether a politician, an athlete, or movie star, we try to be clear, accurate, and on point. The portion of our answer on 60 Minutes was more succinct, which allows more time for other subjects in a wide-ranging 21-minute-long segment. Oh, fuck. 60 Minutes gave an excerpt of our interview to Face the Nation that used a longer section of her answer than that on 60 Minutes. Oh. So 60 Minutes gave an unedited version of the interview to Face the Nation, and then they used a segment that 60 Minutes didn't. Also, I'm pretty sure 60 Minutes posted literally the full interview anyway with her, like the 40-minute plus full interview anyway. So yeah, all of this is a nothing burger. Fuck, this is even less of a nothing burger than I thought it was then. But everybody was like fucking ranting and raving about this. Fuck me. I can't even believe I fell for the little bit. No charitability. I have to go back. No charitability. I have to remember this for conservative cucks. Fuck me.
Ramblings from a moron in order to put a different answer from a different question into the edit. Yes,
I need to look into this. I heard about
and this is a good example of the media ecosystem.
You're going to say that I didn't hear it, and I did. I did hear about this.
And you maintain that the media did not prop her up when they're actively editing things in order. The media
like this is like he's just fully bought into the retard theory that they're like trying to sweep for. Like he's just completely.
That for Trump.
Hold on. The media edited.
Did you know that?
Hold on.
Question.
It's Fox versus. There's Fox on one side, which is I will admit
the
right-wing
largest.
propaganda.
Fox, JRE. Like
actually, it's not the largest.
Right.
ABC, NBC, and CBS are far and away the largest. You know this.
What? Wait. What? Combined? Or what? Isn't Fox News still the largest cable news outlet? Largest cable news outlet, USA. Fox News channels, a 24-hour all-encompassing, currently attracting like 50% of the cable news viewing audience. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, is that true? I wonder if combined, if all these other news networks even outdo Fox then. That's insane. Wait, what the fuck? No, wait, no shot is that real. But anyway, Fox is still 100% the largest one. Are all the others combined bigger than Fox? Maybe, although I'm not sure. Now I'm not sure if that's even true, but...
Right-wing propaganda.
Fox, JRE. Like
actually, it's not the largest.
Right.
ABC, NBC, and CBS are far and away the largest. You know this. Fox is the most right-wing, and it's right-wing propaganda. I know that. The other ones are largely left-wing propaganda. And so when you say, oh, 60 Minutes held her feet to the fire, no, they didn't. They edited a video to make it appear that she answered differently because they knew that releasing it would make her appear foolish.
But he won't even say, I bet he doesn't even know what those two things are. Right? He probably doesn't even know what that what the answers were, or because again, if you read both of these answers, and now I realize it's not even the way he's presenting it, but if you read both these answers, they're not even. It's not like one is so much better than the other. Like it's so stupid.
Meanwhile, that same exact program edited Trump to make him seem like he was saying Nazis were good people. Obama brought up 3 weeks ago the good people on both sides farce lie, and there was no fact checking. There was no
rebranded that as it's
just
like imagine caring about this both sides are good farce lie because he keeps saying this, but not care like let's assume that is like you're only half quoting, you're not quoting it correctly, but then not caring at all about the complete and total fabrication of the eating the dogs and the cats. Like what?
Just you not watching the original video.
What?
Dude, he says.
Say that again.
He said,
I didn't watch the original video again.
You clearly didn't because he says he decries white nationalists and Nazis in that video.
With confidence, but not facts.
My God, dude. He
just said I've never seen the video.
Then were you not listening?
I've seen it and I've read the transcript and I've looked into this again and again and again.
He overtly says he's not talking about white nationalists and Nazis. But there were good people on both sides protesting.
And I've laid the Trump
This is your own little nonsense,
so many
dude.
times.
Like this is your way of rationalizing everything he says into something you disagree with. The Trump two-step.
The Trump two-step is like widely recognized as a natural speech pattern that he does. He will say like...
Trump literally has named it now and he calls it the weave. Like he does this shit, yeah.
Oh, there are good people on both sides, but I don't like some of the people.
Are the media biases I just laid out untrue or are they true?
I was still talking.
You've interrupted me 50 times.
You called me out for it.
And you continue to talk. So
I called you out for it.
Am I right in that the media overwhelmingly was bolstering Harris through selectively editing interviews, giving her, okay, well, then there's no inroad to this conversation. You're just living in a different reality.
To a standard that they didn't hold him to. And he saw it again and again. Like it seemed like Trump could say ridiculous, insane things, and the media this time was trying to not take the bait by not calling him out on every little thing he said.
True.
You're so disconnected, man.
If Kamala had said that immigrants were eating our cats and dogs, if Kamala had said that vermin were invading or poisoning the blood of our country, this stuff would get so much more attention. But with Trump,
calling their political opponents Nazis for a decade.
They've been calling Democrats communists for 2 decades. What a Also, how is that even comparable? Even if we don't think somebody should call somebody a Nazi, that's still like what did they say in definition? Non-actionable. These words don't make sense outside of legal context, but that's like an opinion, right? You're a communist, you're a Nazi, or whatever. And we can say they're really bad opinions and they're really unsupported opinions, which I would argue probably might be true of both of those, calling somebody a Nazi or communist. But that's a lot different than factually saying there are people eating cats and dogs. That's like a specific empirical claim. That's not an opinion at all. There's no room for interpretation there. That's an actual like claim that we can go into the world and see if this is true or not. And it's not.
I didn't call him a Nazi. But Trump did call her a Marxist, communist, socialist, the whole thing, a fascist. Yep. Kamala didn't call him a fascist.
That was a huge part of their campaign, is that he was...
Everybody called him a fascist.
Everybody called him a fascist. The people that knew Trump called him a fascist. The people that worked
because an email was sent out that fascist is the vocabulary word this week.
Like, if you can't admit that the mainstream media does have a left-wing bias, if you don't see that, that's on you. Like, do you really think that these organizations, which are staffed almost entirely by Democrats, their staff donates to Democrats, they vote Democrat, like, you don't think they have a bias in how they're covering these things?
Why are you saying what I think?
No, I'm asking you. I'm saying you don't think they... Do you think they have a bias? Let me phrase it that way. Do you think the mainstream... ABC, NBC, every mainstream...
It depends which ones you pick.
CNN seems to have, other than Fox.
I think CNN probably has a left bias, that's true, but they were tougher on Kamala than they were on Trump this news cycle. MSNBC, clearly they're biased. They're not going to defend them. ABC and NBC, from what I've seen of them, they try to get it right. Fox News doesn't try to get it right. Jerry doesn't try to get it right. They just say their favorite stuff. Yeah, dude, that's hugely influential.
Yeah, it is. And Jerry like lets people on and then they chat for 3 hours. Like... Joe Rogan
will have like non-political comedians on there, and he'll turn it into politics.
Joe Rogan is a liberal who got fumbled.
But you don't think Jon Stewart did that?
Of course he did.
You're telling me what I think? What is it I think?
Like, yeah, but I'm saying, like, if you think that, like, Joe Rogan, if Joe Rogan has people on, like, comedians, and they have, political conversations, but and that has a perspective on it, isn't that what Jon Stewart did?
So Jon Stewart called out Kamala far more than Jerry called.
Oh, no, I was talking about like 15 years ago. Not.
Oh, yeah. Jon Stewart's obviously to the left. I'm not trying to pretend that he's like calling it down the middle, balls and strikes. He's not, right? Jon Stewart is an agent of the left, I would say. So there, sort of lie, something that didn't really happen.
Yeah, that happens a lot in politics. I wouldn't say
Twitter complies with more government takedown requests now than they did before Elon took it over. Yet
according to who?
Twitter.
Twitter came out and said they're doing more?
Fact check it. Google it. Because I heard that and I was like, really? I need to look into this. So I did.
Is that a FISA thing or like is that?
I don't know. I don't know. Here,
do you think Jon Stewart is too soy for today's political climate? I haven't watched much of his recent stuff, so I can't say. I would lean towards no, but I haven't seen anything super recent.
Google, fact check me. Prove me wrong. Because I looked into it just recently and I was like, what do you know?
So Twitter is censoring more now than before, despite...
I said complies with government takedown requests.
So if they're complying with government takedown requests.
The company has not refused a single request since Musk took ownership, according to self-reporting data. Since Musk took ownership, the government has received 971 demands and fully complied with 808 of them. Before Musk, Twitter's compliance rate hovered around 50%. Now it is over 80%.
Yeah, I mean, do you think a lot of that has to do with the fact that there were a lot more requests for information to be?
And now, do you see the selective skepticism? Do you see how his brain was searching for an answer there, right? In the Biden administration, they made 1,000 requests, and Twitter followed 50% of them. Wow, 50% of the government requests were listened to? How could they fucking listen to so many? Who's being removed here? We need to ask some serious questions about government bias. What's going on? And now it's like, well, now they follow 80% of requests. Well, maybe they're requesting less now because they know they have to behave, I guess, maybe? Like,
now it is over 80%.
Yeah, I mean, do you think a lot of that has to do with the fact that there were a lot more requests for information to be banned prior to Elon getting it? Because there was a long time
trying to
was
rationalize why going from 50%
well,
to over 80% is okay. I get it in this context, but this idea that like, oh, Democrats are all about censorship.
Yeah. Democrats are about censorship.
We do it every week.
Both Walz and Harris openly talked about how they were in favor of increasing censorship on social media.
On hate speech laws? Wait, is he going to do the hate speech laws thing? Do it. Say hate speech laws. Say it.
Because they have less control and they see it as misinformation and hate speech. They were open.
That hate speech thing and the misinformation that he's talking about, he's referring to more fake news that he's just a fucking retard. He's just fallen for every fake news fucking thing. I know exactly what he's talking about. He's talking about a Twitter clip where Walz says that he wants to ban hate speech.
You yourself have said there's no First Amendment right to misinformation. Kamala Harris wants to use the power of government. You yourself have said there's no First Amendment right.
7-second clip here, and then we've got this clip here.
We need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
8 seconds. So this is so I guess he seems pretty obvious. He wants to outlaw hate speech, I guess, which is, or outlaw misinformation, which is, that seems really bad, right? Which I would agree. However, I don't know if I suck at searching or if just fucking YouTube sucks at. Somebody link me the original interview for this. Oh, it's MSNBC, sorry. Oh, it's this. Personally, I'm glad that the United States has no hate speech laws. I wouldn't want to see hate speech laws in the United States. So when I heard this, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's kind of, that's not really good. But here's what he's talking about.
I want to talk about what you just mentioned about misinformation, because oftentimes before, in previous political chapters, disinformation, telling people where to vote the wrong way, that was kind of, these were considered shenanigans, but it's becoming more ominous. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you will do to ensure that there are penalties for that?
So what she's talking about, that's already illegal. You're not allowed to do that. You can't lie about where people can vote or when they can vote or anything having to do with that process. That's a federal, I believe it's a federal crime. It might be it might be just state crimes across everything, but I'm pretty sure it's a federal crime.
Yeah, years ago, it was the little things, telling people to vote the day after the election. And, we kind of brushed them off. Now we know it's intimidation at the ballot box.
That's also illegal. You cannot intimidate people at the ballot box. I think in all 50 states, I don't know if these come from Congress or not, so it might be federal, but I think in all 50 states, you're also not allowed to wear political merchandise at polling places as well. And you're not allowed to like bully people or harass people as well, because all of this stuff is looked at as like voter intimidation and stuff like that. I don't even think you're allowed to offer food or water to people in line or whatever. You can't do like all of this stuff. These are all laws on the books. These are all things that are already legal things, right?
It's undermining the idea that mail-in ballots aren't legal. I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy. Tell the truth where the voting places are, who can vote.
So I don't like that he says hate speech here. I don't know what he's thinking when he says that, because it doesn't apply here. It's dumb. But it's obvious what he's talking about. He's not talking about hate speech like racial slurs. He's talking about misinformation around how to vote, which is what he's saying here is perfectly factually true and fair. And we already have laws for this stuff, right? But every single conservative dipshit took this 6 or 7 second clip out of here to try to make it sound like he wants to ban misinformation and hate speech like wholesale. But what he's actually talking about is people lying about whether or not you can mail in vote or whether those ballots are legal, or lying about where to go and vote at polling booths. That's what the question is. That's what he's responding to. It's clearly what he's talking about.
It's becoming more ominous. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you will do to ensure that there are penalties for that?
Yeah, years ago.
He's probably talking about voter intimidation when he says hate speech. Yeah, I think that is what he's talking about. But hate speech is coded in our minds very much as like banning mean speech or bad speech. When he says hate speech, he's probably talking about voter intimidation. But people hear that term and they think a lot else. But if you listen to what the answer he's given, it's pretty obvious what he's talking about here. It's very obvious what he's talking about here.
It's the little things, telling people to vote the day after the election. And, we kind of brushed them off. Now we know it's intimidation at the ballot box. It's undermining the idea that mail-in ballots aren't legal. I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy. Tell the truth where the voting voting places are, who can vote, who's able to be there. And watching some states continue to weaken the protections around the ballot, I think is what inspiring us to lean into this. Again, all we're asking is to make it as easy and simple as possible to exercise their right to vote and participate in our democracy. And I'm in 100% agreement with you. That makes it so that more people are there. You get more opinions brought in. And I think it tempers that extremes that we get. Because, again, I can't imagine someone going and standing in line for 8 hours to try and vote and then being told that, maybe the votes didn't count or maybe something's wrong. Or you have these candidates who lose and are on these ridiculous court cases that they keep bringing up and losing on. Here in Minnesota, we're going to bring faith back into that system. It's already been here. We're very proud that we're near the top in voter turnout, but there's more that we can do.
So also, this misinformation clip was posted also by Elon Musk, by the way. But that's what Taylor here is remembering when he says they wanted to ban hate speech.
Democrats are about censorship.
We do it every week.
Both Walz and Harris openly talked about how they were in favor of increasing censorship on social media because they have less control and they see it as misinformation and hate speech. They were open about that.
Yeah, so I don't line up with the idea of...
And now Woody is stuck in a position where he doesn't know the piece of propaganda that Taylor has swallowed here. And so Woody is like having to respond here and pretend like he just made a point that was actually true and said by them. And it's just so fucking irritating watching this.
Censoring ideas that you don't like. But Trump does. Trump said he was going to pull broadcasting licenses for reporting news he doesn't like.
For the last 10 years, left-leaning social media companies have been removing right-wing people.
Well, like, for what, though? For their political beliefs or for breaking the terms of service? Like, this is an issue, too. You can't make a TOS anywhere because conservatives are going to break it more than liberals because they're worse people. They're just bad people. And a lot, like, if you try to make a TOS where it's like, okay, well, we can't have like people blatantly lying about some health issue. Well, it's going to be unfair to conservatives because they'll lie about it more. They just break the rules more. They do worse things. So what are you supposed to do? I don't know. I guess we just have to have no TOS anywhere.
Like, I remember Dick came on our show and he's like, they don't like me because I'm right. I'm like, what'd you actually post? He's like, yeah, no, you put some swastikas on your Twitter feed and suddenly you're a Nazi. That's the kind of stuff.
You realize he was joking with you there, right? Like, he's not actually posting swastikas. He was meaning. Well, I'm telling you, he was joking as though what he was. Let me tell you what he's meaning.
Okay.
He was saying, oh, I'm being so offensive, it's Nazi adjacent. The reality is he's shit posting. Nothing Dick does on there is Nazi-esque. The fact is that what used to get removed on social media is like, up until Musk, it was really just Democrats asking like, hey, this looks bad for our party, remove it. And they would.
That's a fucking lie. Dude, the reason why I'll never go on PK again, I'm so sorry. I love these guys. They're cool, okay? But I'll never go on the show because none of these guys talk politics when I'm there. And it's happened like the last 3 or 4 times now. They don't say anything. Taylor's just lying now. There was only one person that I saw make a request for actual stuff taken down that just makes them look bad. And it was when Trump requested the removal of the Keegan comedian girl's tweet for saying he was an asshole or whatever. That's it. These people never, ever talk politics from there. And it drives me fucking crazy. Oh my God. They're the Chrissy Teigen tweet. Yeah. That's the only one that I saw. And that's why Taylor will not bring up a single example. He won't even be able to bring up one example of this happening. And Woody should push him on it. Woody's like, wait, I don't remember that, but I don't know if he doesn't want to push him because he's worried that Taylor will have it. He should just push him on it. God, it's so cringe.
On social media is like, up until Musk, it was really just Democrats asking like, hey, this looks bad for our party, remove it. And they would comply with that often. That came out. They did that during election seasons. Like, this isn't conspiratorial.
It is.
COVID.
What about the mask stuff? What about the
mask stuff? Is my favorite example for why you need to be careful about censoring misinformation because, like what was true in my air quotes about Mac.
And now Woody is doing, I used to do this like 2 weeks ago. I'm sorry. But I fall into this trap a lot where Woody is trying to kind of like, this is why I don't give any ground anymore to these demon fucks, to these subhuman, disgusting, treasonous motherfuckers. I don't give any ground anymore because Woody's trying to be good faith and build a bridge. It's like, okay, yeah, this lie by Fauci, it probably wasn't great. I understand it. Why is it that if Fauci says one thing wrong, it undermines him, but Donald Trump and all of the other conservatives can lie with impunity over and over and over and over and over again and you don't care and you make excuses for it? It's not the same. They're not the same rules. This is stupid. You shouldn't give any ground to people like this, ever.
Asks shifted. And
like, you want to talk about laws? Fuck, where's that one Twitter compilation video? Fuck, there was such a good like, Trump lied over and over and over again about how, like, I think in the first few days he was like, oh no, yeah, it's under control. It's going to be gone. It's not even a thing. There's only like 6 people that are infected. He lied over and over and over again. It was insane. And nobody talks about any of his lies. Why? Watch now. Oh, it's not letting me watch. Tabor would just say he did this to make people not panic. Okay. There's a Vox article about it. Yeah, I don't have this shit saved. What is this video? 20 minutes. Whatever. Believe it or not. Don't care. Don't believe me.
If you're kind about it, maybe they just like got new information or raised their standards for what was
They
good.
lied. They knew that doesn't stop it. It wasn't people who said masks are 100% effective. You can go and say that all day. Obvious, disinformation. It was people saying, hey, these don't work clearly. It says so on the box. That was what was shut down. The vax efficacy shit too. For a while, you got banned for saying it was anything less than 100% effective. And then
What? Is that true? You got banned for saying masks were less than 100% effective? There's one where he was talking instead, but whatever.
Then they backed off of that.
That surprises me that you got banned for saying it was less than 100% effective. But what I saw a lot was like the number was like 97% effective or 80% effective.
Was it this?
The virus will not have a chance against us. No nation is more prepared or more resilient than the United States.
We weren't.
We have the best economy, the most advanced healthcare,
Didn't matter.
and the most talented doctors,
Didn't matter.
scientists, and researchers anywhere in the world. We are all in this together.
Why do you keep calling this the Chinese virus? There are reports of dozens of incidents of bias against Chinese Americans in this country. Your own aide, Secretary Ade's article says he does not use this term. He says ethnicity does not cause the virus. Why do you keep using this? A lot of people say it's racist.
It's not racist at all. No, not at all. It comes from China. That's why. It comes from China. I want to be accurate. But I'm a little upset with China, I'll be honest with you, because as much as I like President Xi and as much as I respect the country and admire the country, I have great admiration for the country, what they've done in a short period of time. Of course, our previous presidents allowed that to happen. You should say thank you very much to all of them. But they should have told us about this. Easter is a very special day for many reasons. For me, for a lot of our friends, that's a very special day. And what a great timeline this would be. Easter is our timeline. What a great timeline that would be. And our people want to go back to work. I'm hearing it loud and clear from everybody. I just don't want to wear one myself. It's a recommendation. They recommend it. I'm feeling good. I just don't want to be doing, I don't know, somehow sitting in the Oval Office behind that beautiful Resolute desk, the great Resolute desk. I think wearing a face mask as I greet presidents, prime ministers, dictators, kings, queens. I don't know. Somehow I don't see it for myself. I just don't. Maybe I'll change my mind. They called it wrong. They missed the call. They could have called it months earlier. They would have known. And they should have known. And they probably did know. So we'll be looking into that very carefully. And we're going to put a hold on money spent to the WHO. We're going to put a very powerful hold on it. And we're going to see. It's a great thing if it works. But when they call every shot wrong, that's no good. I'm going to have to make a decision. And I only hope to God that it's the right decision. But I would say, without question, it's the biggest decision I've ever had to make. I'm sure people will be very happy to get a big, fat, beautiful check and my name is on it. Right, and then I see the disinfectant, where it knocks it out in 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of lungs. So it'll be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors.
Why the fuck would you even spitball this publicly?
Anything at this point that gives you a high degree of confidence that the Wuhan Institute of Virology was the origin of this virus?
Yes, I have. And I think that the World Health Organization should be ashamed of themselves because they're like the public relations agent or a wife or a husband or, any brothers, sisters. If you lost someone, you could never make up for that by saying, well, you're going to have a great year next year.
With only 7 weeks until the November election, President Trump's own words might have become his biggest obstacle. In the early months of the pandemic, President Trump tried to reassure Americans that COVID-19 would disappear, praising his own administration's response.
I think it's going to work out good.
There's no reason to panic because we have done so good.
But those comments now face a renewed scrutiny as audio from a private interview with veteran reporter Bob Woodward show Trump admitting he knew of the serious threat COVID presented, including airborne transmission.
That's a very tricky one. That's a very delicate one. It's also more deadly than your strenuous flus.
The admission calls into...
By the way, none of the Trumpers even believe that statement, by the way, because Trump lied to them so fucking much, and they're such sycophantic fucking retards. Taylor included. If you would ask Taylor, do you think COVID is more deadly than the flu? He'd probably, no, I don't think so, not at all, because Trump lied so much of it, even though Trump knew it. That's always the thing that I want to stress with you guys, is that when you have these smug dipshits like this out here saying these lies, they might not even know they're lying. I don't think Taylor knows that he's lying right now. Taylor has legitimately just been hoodwinked by a bunch of people that are laughing at him in the background. All of the Trumps, all of the Viveks, all of the Musks, all of the Fox News anchors and hosts, all of these people, they're all laughing at dipshits like Taylor who are working for free. He's not even getting a check from these people, and he's still carrying water from them because they've all been lied to so convincingly by these people. And it's been shown over and over and over and over and over again that they're lying, and they don't hold them accountable at all. It's insane.
It's also more deadly than your
your strenuous flus.
The admission calls into question the decision to not implement a mask mandate. The interview also shows that the president held back information that critics argue could have saved lives.
I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down. Yes, sir. Because I don't want to create a panic.
The president never downplayed the virus. Once again, the president expressed calm.
But on Wednesday, Trump doubled down, while at the same time refusing to acknowledge any shortcomings.
It's just another political hit job, but whether it was Woodward or anybody else, you cannot show a sense of panic.
And as the president propped up his response, the Biden campaign launched a new attack.
He knowingly and willingly lied about the threat it posed to the country for months. He failed to do his job on purpose.
And confirming fears from his critics, the book also quotes Dr. Anthony Fauci as saying Donald Trump was more focused on re-election than leadership. And while it's unclear if this will move the needle with any voters, it may sway those who are directly impacted by the virus. Reggie Cicchini, Global News, Washington.
% effective. But what I saw a lot was like the number was like 97% effective or 80% effective over some period of time. And then they're like, if it's not 100, what are we doing? What a waste. They tell us it works. It doesn't actually work. When really, it's like 80 to 90.
Well, if you remember, like the actual track of info, it started as 100% safe, 100% effective.
I do remember. I never saw 100.
And then Fauci said it. And then it was down to...
I've looked for these over and over again. I think he's following... well, I'm not even gonna waste my time. I don't know. You've either seen me do this before or you haven't. I can fact check every single one of these claims over and over and over again. There was that one dipshit on Twitter that wanted to argue with me. It was like all these people said it was going to be 100% effective, and it would be like one quote where it would be like Bill Gates saying, "If you get vaccinated, it'll stop people from getting sick." And I'm like, "See, he says it's 100% effective." But then when you go and you look at the speech, and then you look at the paragraph before, he's saying that like herd immunity is important. Most of the people that get vaccinated won't get sick, and if enough people get vaccinated, then we won't have to worry about it spreading from person to person so much. And then like at the end of that, it'd be like, "So if people get vaccinated, we won't spread the disease or whatever." And people say, "Oh, he was saying it was 100% effective." No, he wasn't. He's talking about herd immunity. Every single one of those quotes that I chased down on that stupid fucking Twitter thread like a year ago, every single one of those quotes was like that. I couldn't find a single person, a reputable person, who was saying that like, oh yeah, it'll be 100% effective. But
it works. It doesn't actually work. When really, it's like 80 to 90.
Well, if you remember, like the actual track of info, it started as 100% safe, 100% effective.
I do remember. I never saw 100.
And then Fauci said it. And then it was down to 97, and then it was down to 90, and then it was down to 80. And over the course of about a year and a half, the end-up claim was, yeah, idiots, it's not supposed to keep you from ever getting it.
A year and a half? What variant were we on after a year and a half? Of course, it changed. Like, it was incredibly effective at the first COVID-19, the SARS-CoV-2 virus, and then the Delta variant. And then as they became more and more mutated, yeah, the vaccine efficacy decreased. The severity of the illness also decreased. But yeah, when you say a year and a half out, like which variant are we talking about at that point?
It's supposed to keep you from dying and going to the hospital. And so there was you could watch in real time as a narrative fell apart, and there was kind of a backfilling of, oh, well, okay, they're right about that, but this new thing is true. And so when they operate on a scale like that, it is easy to go, okay, what else are they not allowing to be spoken about?
Oh my God. Kill me. Jesus. Poor Woody. Do you think there's a better way to organize this? I don't know. These are like the same stupid talking points over and over and over again.
And that's LA, and that's New York, and that's a lot of places that got fucked up by incompetent people.
I don't know. I just feel safer knowing, like...
Pull this microphone with your face.
I feel safer knowing that Trump is in office.
I do too.
I feel great about it. Like, I just like...
What I don't feel safer is right now they're launching missiles into Russia.
Yeah.
How are you allowed to do that when you're on the way out? Like, the people don't want you to be there anymore. This should be like some sort of a pause for like significant actions that could potentially start World War III. Maybe that would be a good thing that we would like to avoid from a dying former president.
Mm-hmm.
It's the whole thing is nuts.
I mean, look,
sorry, fuck.
The world we're living in now, and that's LA, and that's New York, and that's a lot of places that got fucked up by incompetent people.
I don't know. I just feel safer knowing, like...
Pull this microphone with your face.
I feel safer knowing that Trump is in office.
Oh, he had to do it. Interesting. I wonder if they do tell him before the show. Speaking to the fucking microphone. It's an SM7B, dog. You can't be all the way back here. But he told him, he corrected him on that. I wonder how often that happens.
For knowing, like...
Pull this microphone with your face.
I feel safer knowing that Trump is in office.
I do too.
I feel great about it. Like, I just like...
What I don't feel safer is right now they're launching missiles into Russia.
Yeah.
How are you allowed to do that when you're on the way out? Like, the people don't want you to be there anymore. There should be like some sort of a pause for like significant actions that could potentially start World War III. Maybe that would be a good thing that we would like to avoid from a dying former president. Mm-hmm. The whole thing is nuts.
I mean, look, I don't know shit about politics.
Zelensky says Putin is terrified. Fuck you, man. Fuck you people. You fucking people are about to start World War III.
Yeah.
Not the guy who invaded the fucking country? You bulb ape? What a stupid fucking thing to say.
Russia fired a missile today.
Yeah, they fired an intercontinental ballistic missile for the first time ever. It's the first time one of those has ever been used.
It's insanity.
It's fucking insanity because those intercontinental ballistic missiles can have nukes on them. This one didn't, but if it does, the whole world changes, and it changes because of the military-industrial complex, and it changes because of the money that's going to Ukraine, and it changes because the outgoing president or whoever the fuck is actually running the country decided to do something fucking insane, insane. And we're all sitting there watching it, and people are cheering it on. CNN was saying, like, finally, see what their headline was about Zelensky using.
Wait, who does he think fired the ICBM? Does he think Ukraine fired it? I can't tell.
See what their headline was about Zelensky about Biden giving Zelensky the ability to use long-range missiles. U.S. made long-range. It's not like nobody knows where they came from. It's not like nobody knows we've been funding this. It's a proxy war. The whole thing is fucking insane.
Is that
because those
also technically it wasn't an ICBM, but
continental ballistic missiles can have nukes on them. This wasn't. Fuck you people. You fucking people are about to start World War III.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Russia fired a missile today.
Yeah, they fired an intercontinental ballistic missile for the first time ever.
Oh no, he's saying Russia fired. Okay, at least that's
the first time one of those has ever been used.
It's insanity.
It's fucking insanity because those intercontinental ballistic missiles can have nukes on them. This one didn't, but if it does, the whole world changes, and it changes because of the military-industrial complex, and it changes because of the money that's going to Ukraine, and it changes because the outgoing president.
Like, who caused this war in Ukraine? Was it the military-industrial complex that made Russia invade? How the fuck are we? How is the blame getting all the way back to them?
Or whoever the fuck is actually running the country decided to do something fucking insane, insane. And we're all sitting there watching it, and people are cheering it on. CNN was saying, like, finally, see what their headline was about Zelensky about Biden giving Zelensky the ability to use long-range missiles. U.S. made long-range. It's not like nobody knows where they came from. It's not like nobody knows we've been funding this. It's a proxy war. The whole thing is fucking insane. It's insane. Come to the negotiation table. Sit down. Work this out. Stop killing everybody. U.S. allows Ukraine to use long-range missiles. So what did they say? Someone had said that, like, CNN was saying that it was a good thing, which I think is how is the left gone so far crazy that they think it's a good thing to launch missiles? It's just. That's what's scary about life is like you don't want to pay attention to that shit.
How do you deal with dipshits that have ridiculous political takes, but when pushed onto the retreat to the I don't know a lot about politics? Well, the reason they never talk to people that super disagree with them. Rogan will never bring on somebody that like has a hardcore, like violent disagreement. Same thing with all the Daily Wire guys. Like, there's a reason why this conservative media circuit exists, and it's so they can avoid those types of questions. Conservatives never have to answer tough questions on shit like this because they avoid people that will ask them tough questions on it.
Just want to live your life. You want to just be carefree and have fun and do the thing that you're passionate about. And meanwhile, the world is burning. And
you can't do anything about it. At that high level, it's like there's nothing.
Well, we can. We voted Trump in, and his idea is to stop all this shit, and hopefully he can do that. Yeah. But, you know, man, fuck. We got 60 more days until Trump gets in or whatever it is. How many days is it, Jamie? But who knows? Maybe once he gets in, they'll ramp it up. Who knows? Maybe they'll sabotage his administration. That's what's even more scary. People don't want him in power. And the people that are in power don't want to leave power, and they'll try every way they can to keep it. 60 days from today. All right. 60 days.
Keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah, just hope Putin understands what's going on as well, and Zelensky doesn't do anything stupid. But saying that Putin's terrified, god damn it.
It's like you're trying to like tug the tail of a fucking sleeping dragon.
Dragons.
Yeah. Also, Zelensky, can I get a drug test?
The sad thing is that no matter what happens in like a year or two, like if it gets worse, it's going to be blamed on Biden somehow. Are you listening? He thought Ukraine fired the missile until the headline came up from Jimmy. Wait, is that true? Did I miss that? Hold on.
Can have nukes on them. This one didn't, but if it does, World War III.
Yeah, it's great.
Maybe that would be a good thing that we would like to avoid from a dying former president. Mm-hmm. The whole thing is nuts.
I mean, look, I don't know shit about politics.
Zelensky says Putin is terrified. Fuck you, man. Fuck you people. You fucking people are about to start World War III.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Russia fired a missile today.
They fired an intercontinental ballistic missile for the first time ever. It's the first time one of those has ever been used.
No, I don't think you're right there.
Insanity.
It's fucking insanity.
Okay. The Russian propaganda is that Zelensky is on drugs? Oh, gotcha. You guys don't... Oh, Jesus.
Tag on them that says political insensitive content. It's just a new thing. And they literally said, like, you have to have this on your streams. We're going to make you have it. And I was like, okay, I guess. And then from that day forward, not a single ad has run on the channel. So I've lost like half of our Twitch revenue. And if I don't put it on, they automatically put it on and they send me a warning note. So thank you, Twitch. Thank you so much, Twitch. I really appreciate it.
Oh, over the ad stuff. Good memes. What are you going to do? You know, sometimes you just got to meme and dream all at the same team. Instead of time, get it? Ball in cup, balance sheet, latex, lollipop account, checkers, cotton swab, licorice, gum, corn dog, story, sap, chronicle, resin, roulette, and description. Telling of events. Easy, easy, easy. Things that are like stretchy or gooey. Oh, no. Fuck. One away. This? Fuck. Wait, why am I doing licorice? Licorice. I keep saying it. This. Okay. Oh, secreted by trees. Gum? Latex? I didn't know latex came from trees. I have no idea. Okay. And then things that are at like carnivals that you can buy. Oh, and then these are things that you can either be in the black or in the red. Oh, black licorice and red licorice. Things on sticks. Easy. Okay. I love you. I'll be back tomorrow. Maybe on time even. Maybe. No guarantee. December 1st. We'll be back to normal, okay? Stay safe, don't die. Cappuccino.